No. All right. We are in. Sorry about some technical difficulties. This is the official 38th Annual High School Programming Tournament live stream. I'm Cameron Custer, joined by my co-host,
Juan Moscoso.
and we're excited to be announcing some of the contests today for you guys.
Yes, sir. Let's finally get that started.
Already got a few solves on the scoreboard. Some of these teams are looking pretty good. We've actually got a view right here behind us so that everyone can just kind of check that out. Let's see what's been solved so far.
Yeah, so far, I think in first place, we have the First Academy. We have their number one team, having solved 4 problems. So True, Flow, Building, and Invaders. Seems like So True and Invaders seem to be the easiest problems of the sets, having the most solved so far. And it seems like Building is a close third.
Yeah, one thing I want to note on So True is a 1-minute solve from Timber Creek High School number 1. They had a really quick solve on that for the dark green first solve of the contest, if you're not familiar with programming contest format. That's pretty impressive. And then we saw a dark green following at 1 minute as well on Invaders from Timber Creek High School 3. So some quick solvers, some fast solvers out there today.
Yeah, so in case you guys are new to the idea of a programming contest, the dark green basically means that your team was the first one to solve it out of all the other teams. Speaking of, we have around 80 teams showing up to HSPT this year, so it's looking to be a good contest this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see what we got coming in. I know we can also view the queue on the back end somehow, can't we, to see what people are submitting on? Oh, actually, I can see them. We might have a submission coming in on Building. Has that one been solved yet? Let's catch up here. Yep, it's got a few solves. The first one actually at 7 minutes. Atlantic Community High School, number 1. Some strong teams competing today. Okay.
Yeah, and I also want to mention that Timber Creek High School's number 3 team has also now solved 4 problems. So now we have 2 teams having solved 4 problems.
2 teams with 4. What's interesting to me, though, is no team has more than 1 dark green that we're seeing here. So it seems like teams are kind of spreading out, just reading the entire problem set and going for anything that seems doable to them. That's the impression I get from some of these teams that are higher up on the scoreboard right now. But let's see.
Yeah, but it's actually, there's a team right now that has a solve on letter. They seem to be the first solve. Which
that is the only solve.
Which is, yeah, it's kind of interesting because no other team has even attempted to look at this problem.
No.
Or even, submit on
Yeah,
this.
I don't see any other submissions on it. That's an interesting problem. I don't know how much detail we can go in on that. Natalie did write that one. I think we're going to have her on the stream for interview later, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that is correct.
Sitting in with us. Okay.
Yeah, that would be
awesome.
Good. We'll be able to interview her and ask her some questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And something that we do have here are the problem sets, so we could read the problems on stream if you guys are interested in that.
Oh, true. Yeah. Is anyone... Okay, we got a couple people on. Did you send out the new link to, everyone so they can...
Yeah.
With the technical difficulties, yeah. We had to change that. All right, cool. Let's see. Yeah, I can look at the queue and see what's coming in, actually. A lot of ACs, especially on So True. Definitely that and Space Invaders seem to be the 2 easiest problems in this set.
Yeah, one thing I noticed that, there's not, a lot of... a lot of teams, if they WA, they're able to find their bug pretty quickly because there's not a lot of red on the scoreboard.
Yeah, definitely. We're seeing pretty much 1 submit, some 2 submit solves on these. Not really seeing a lot of wrong verdicts. That's a good sign for these early problems. I don't know exactly what languages people are using. I mean, in the contest, I think permitted languages are C++, Python, and Java.
And I think also C as well.
No one's going to be using C. They do have the option. They do have the option.
I think they do have the option to
yeah,
submit
okay.
C, though.
Okay. Yeah. Fair. Actually, I even see one coming in on Flow as well. I can't see which team it was from that view. It's hard for me to see exactly what team is solving, but Yeah. It's looking like a good contest. 2 teams with 4 right now.
Oh, I think we just have a bunch more submits on building gazebos.
Yeah, looking at the queue here.
We'll see if those are ACs or not.
Definitely got a few coming in. I see another one for letter coming in. Another submit on letter. Will this be the second solve? I can't tell what team it's from. Looks like it's being judged. Actually, let me take a look. Yeah, I'm not seeing a verdict. As you'll notice, there's a little bit of lag to getting your verdict, especially early on with so many submissions coming in. The judges are actually hand judging all the solutions. So.
Correct. But by hand judging, he means that we have a program that checks.
What I mean is the judge walks through your code and checks the input by hand. No, yeah. There's a program that checks which the judges run. I actually had a chance to talk to a few contestants this morning when I was out on the floor. Seems like Java is kind of the language of choice for a lot of contestants out here today.
That makes sense. A lot of AP classes, I think computer science are taught in Java, so I think they just stick with that.
That must be the case then. That must be the case. I know when I was talking to a few of the contestants this morning, I saw some pretty thick pairs of glasses out on the floor, so I think we can expect some pretty good performance from these contestants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, it's interesting because...
Another solve on letter, by the way, I just want to mention from American Heritage at 24 minutes. So that's, I believe, the second solve.
We also have our third team with 4 problems solved. That's Freedom High School number 1. Solving building gazebos.
And they're the only ones in the top 3 with letter.
And they're still missing invaders, which is supposed to be one of the
easier according to the scores we're seeing.
So they
here.
still have that.
Yep.
So I think they're in a really good spot here.
Definitely. And we saw some more submissions coming in on letter.
Our first solve on espionage just came in.
Espionage was just solved by Doral Academy. You guys can also probably catch that up here. I don't know how good the view is for everybody. The view is fantastic for us, but might be a little fuzzy. That's a phenomenal solve. I mean, we can read that problem if you want to.
Yeah, that problem's interesting.
Yeah, go into it a little.
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk a little bit about the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So after years, this is like a lot of flavor text this problem has. So
that's good.
It seems like we have 2 circular offices where we have these zookeepers that are conspiring against these elephants. And they want to place an HSBT, which I guess is like an office of some sorts.
Sure.
In both of these buildings to gather intel on the zookeeper schemes.
Freedom High School just got invaders, propelling them to first place. That's the number 1 team.
And that's the first team with 5
That's the first team with 5 solves. They're keeping a pretty good pace this contest.
I see. Okay, so it seems... Let me just read the synopsis of the problem. It says, given a map of the 2 circular offices, determine the optimal placement, minimum distance apart of the HSBTs, where an HSBT is within or on the circular boundary of each office.
Okay.
So we want to place 2 HSBTs such that there's minimum distance between them.
So we're kind of doing a geometric type problem here, where we have 2 circles.
Yeah, I think we're actually given X, Y, and a radius for the offices. Okay.
And we're asked to compute something with those circles there. I don't know how much we can go into solution ideas on this stream, but
I think we want to find 2 points such that in the circles, I guess, such that it's minimum distance apart. That's an interesting problem, I think.
Okay. That is interesting.
I know geo is definitely not my strong suit. Also, I don't think we ever formally introduced ourselves.
Oh, yeah. We could jump back for a little more formal introduction for you guys. It was a little bit last minute, setting up a few things up here, so that could be good.
So, my name is Juan Moscoso, and I'm a member of the varsity UCF programming team here. And I've been on the team for 3 years now. and hoping to be on the team another 4th year.
Absolutely. Cameron Custer, like I said, I've been on the team now for 3 years. Actually, this is my 3rd year. I've had a great experience doing it, learned a lot, and I've judged for this contest every year that I've been on the team as well. So both of us judged, worked with these problems, and have made data and solutions and stuff like that. So we have a pretty decent familiarity with the problem set, but we can't actually go into too much detail on the solutions in the current state. We'll just be keeping it pretty high level for this stream.
Correct, because this is still a live stream, and I know there's some teams that still have access to technology, so we don't want to risk anything.
Definitely don't want to risk anything with the sus participants on the scoreboard or anything like that. Yeah, we don't want to skew anything. So, okay, still just one team with 5 solves that I'm seeing. Pretty impressive. Okay, and we've got the second team working on summer. What kind of problem is that one again? I know that was written by Natalie.
Summer?
Let me see that problem set from you. I have a copy, don't I, too?
Here,
one of these? Sure.
Take this one.
Yeah. We have our own copies of the problems, so...
Correct. In case
We
you're
can talk
wondering
about
what
them.
we are reading the problem sets.
Yeah.
Also given to the contestants.
Uh-huh. That's exactly right. Let's take a look here. Oh, people cheering for Doral in the chat. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It seems like we have a lot of
Support
Doral
your
supporters.
That's phenomenal. Yeah. Definitely looking forward to see what those teams can do today from that school.
Yeah, it seems like Doral's number 1
Is
team.
it Doral?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's Doral.
Okay.
So Doral was actually the first solve in espionage.
Find that. Yeah, Doral Academy number 1 actually did have the first solve. 2 minutes later, the second solve, though, I'm seeing.
Yes.
So that was close.
That is true. But it's interesting how they don't have flow and building, which based off like the scoreboard, it seems to be the next approachable after So True and Invaders.
They definitely look like they have a strong chance at getting those if they keep a good pace here.
Agreed.
So they're in a great spot to contend. In this first hour, you can look like you're a few down in problems, but with a solve like espionage, that definitely puts you farther ahead than it can appear. Because other
correct.
teams haven't even started working on that, as far as we can tell. Are there other schools? Yep, we've got Doral Academy number 2 as well.
Where are they?
Solving both. They're in 23rd with both So True and Invaders. So they have the 2 easiest according to the scoreboard, and they're probably picking out that 3rd problem to approach. Is there another one? I can... And we also have Doral Academy number 3, also with both So True and Invaders. So they're also probably looking for that 3rd solve. I mean, right now, with so many teams having 2, a 3rd solve is going to propel you into that top 20, top 21.
American Heritage number 1 team just got their 4th solve, bringing them to 5th place, actually. Tied with Doral Academy number 1.
Yeah, that's right, with the 69 penalty points for both of those teams. So I think tiebreak goes to last problem solved, if I'm not mistaken. If you guys aren't familiar with the scoring, it's by number of solves, then by penalty, which is total accumulated time taken for all the solves, plus an additional 20-minute penalty for every wrong submission on a problem.
On a then solved
On a problem that you then solve. That's
Yes,
an
that
important
is-
distinction.
that is important.
That's a really important distinction. If you don't end up solving the problem, there's no penalty counted against you.
That's why towards the end of the contest, we'll probably see a lot of wrong submissions because it matters less and less as we get to the ends of the contest.
Absolutely. And they just need to get that solved. That's absolutely true. Okay.
Oh, seems like Timber Creek High School also solved flow, pushing them up to the top of 3 problems solved. They were the ones who got, I'm pretty sure, the first solve of the contest. With
It's
a
hard
1
to
minute
tell
solve with
because
So
we have
True.
2 1-minute solves on both So True and Invaders.
Oh, correct.
Both from Timber Creek teams.
Yeah,
Those are some quick teams if you guys aren't aware.
that is correct.
That's really, really strong, solving a problem at 1 minute. Really impressive. Actually, the former coach of Timber Creek teams now coaches at the university level for Central Florida.
Yeah, I think he actually
another
now coaches some of the JV teams here.
That's correct. Yep.
And speaking of the programming team, Kim, do you want to mention how the programming team here works at UCF? How would one get on the programming team?
Yeah.
How does that process work, and how does the life of a programming team member looks like?
Absolutely. So, essentially, if I had to keep it pretty high level, this contest is great for students who are getting interested in programming contests early on, high school, and maybe they want to continue that. They find an interest at the college level. So the opportunity for them is really going to be the ICPC contests.
What does that stand for, actually?
That's the International Collegiate Programming Contest. That's for university students. It is held annually. There is a contest at the regional level, which all the teams for the University of Central Florida and other schools compete in at a regional level, which is generally going to be, a southeast type area, schools in Georgia, Alabama, and other nearby states. There's going to be a few other regions scattered across the states and around the world. Actually, it's an international contest. And then based on the results of that, there's going to be a second tier of contest, which is the North America Championship, which has actually been held consecutively for, I believe, the past 3 years, maybe only 2, at the University of Central Florida.
I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3.
It might be 2, yeah. It's been held, I think, for the last 2 years, though, at the University of Central Florida. Yep. And this year it's again going to be held in May, that contest, which will bring participants from all over North America to compete in hopes of a chance of competing in the World Final Contest, which is going to take place, I think, in Kazakhstan, if I'm not mistaken, this year.
It should also be this year.
Where teams that advance will have the opportunity to travel around the world, internationally from everywhere, to Kazakhstan to compete with the best of the best in the world. So.
All right, Cam. I don't want to interrupt you, but we have
Let's take a look.
We have Freedom High School, their number 1 team.
6 solves.
With 6 solves, pushing them 2 problems above Timber Creek, number 3, with the solve on Summer.
Wow.
And this is the first dark. This is a dark green.
That's
on
the
Summer.
first solve.
So
we have a couple
solve.
attempts on Summer, but this is the first solve. They solved it in a single attempt.
It seems like we have some other teams attempting Summer, but they were unfortunately did not get the problem.
Can take a look at that one. That's impressive, having 2 additional solves right here. Oh, I've got it open.
So it seems like in this problem we're defining an operation on an array of integers, and we basically have to continue performing this operation on our array indefinitely, and then we have to then determine with these operations, will our last element be positive, negative, or then 0?
Okay.
Seems interesting. Seems like
after an infinite number of operations.
Yeah.
Sure.
Seems like there might be some observation you might have to make to then decide whether the last element is...
Definitely. I mean, I'm not going to go into detail here, but what does interest me about this problem is, we're working with infinities, with an infinite number of operations. That's always an interesting concept to me.
Exactly.
And students who have some familiarity with limits, maybe they're Calc 1, Calc 2, might feel like this problem is more approachable. It's hard to say.
Yeah, that is true. In calculus, we are generally taught, and I know a lot of these high schools nowadays are teaching calculus in high school.
Definitely.
So some of these students are well equipped.
A lot of these students are going to be pretty well equipped, and pretty familiar with infinities and limits and stuff like that. And I think they're going to be in a pretty good spot to approach this problem. So, be interesting to see how many solves it gets.
Yeah, that's always interesting to see how many solves a problem would get.
This it's more of a discrete problem than something you might see in a traditional Calculus 1 course, but the ideas extend. They're the same, I think. So, it'd be cool to see what people come up with.
Yeah.
Let's see the scores here. Now, interestingly, the only team I can see with 2 dark green first solves on a problem is actually Freedom High School number 1, the top team. Both letter and summer, they had the first solve.
Yeah.
What are we at? 39 minutes in, 40 minutes in.
40 minutes.
With 6 solves. At what point do you expect them to start slowing down a little bit? Because they're keeping a strong pace here. Maybe they keep this up.
Yeah, from my experience with ICPC contests, you usually start slowing down after the first hour after you solve all the bangers relatively, which is banger is a term used for a problem that seems to be like the easier problem out of the set. So that's a term that we use at the UCF programming team. We say, oh, I can solve the banger, which just means I can solve this problem, and it's probably like the easier one of the set.
Well, and they're not necessarily easy problems. They're just problems that you know how to do quickly.
Yeah.
And so they might require a niche concept or some knowledge, but with that knowledge, they become pretty approachable generally.
Yeah, usually when people say easier, they mean relative to the other problems in the set, and not obviously like in general.
Definitely.
Because all these problems,
these
in
are
some
all
way
challenging
require some thought to them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, going into this contest, the experience varies quite a bit. I mean, we've got competitors who have competed in this contest for 3 years now with a lot of experience. Definitely some from Freedom High School number 1 here. From competitors to people who haven't written too many computer programs. Maybe this is their first time doing it, and it's a great way to get exposure.
Yep.
So,
and that's actually one of the reasons why I really like HSBT, because it brings a lot of people from different skill ranges and like different backgrounds together to compete in something that they like.
Absolutely. It's just a great way to get into it and learn what programming contests are all about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and also I want to mention that we have now 2 submits on pseudonym, both WAs though. But it seems like teams are trying to branch out from these from the easier problems, and they're now approaching to they're now reading and like attempting to solve the other problems of the set.
Definitely. Let's take a look at that one actually, since it does have some submissions. The
and
teams
also,
are attempting it.
Just letting you guys know, we will be interviewing some of the problem authors.
That's going to be sweet.
Stream.
Yeah,
It
you
should
guys
be
will definitely
interesting.
want to see that. We'll have some of the authors who are judges come up and explain, how they wrote these problems.
Yeah.
So,
And if you guys also have questions for the problem authors, that might be something you can ask in the chat, and we might be
that
able
would
to
be
ask
cool
them.
to open that up.
Yep.
Yeah, and we can just pass it along.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at pseudonym. It seems like this problem is a little bit more on the implementation side. It's definitely a programming problem.
That is something I could say. It definitely is a programming problem. So we're given some queries, and we have to determine who the queried pseudonym refers to as people enter and leave. Okay. Interesting.
So we're given a breakdown of the queries: enter, leave, whose, querying the name of the person whom the pseudonym represents. Sure.
So Cam, actually speaking of getting someone up and interviewing, we can actually do that right now. It seems like judging is being taken care of.
Okay.
And we can ask someone,
awesome,
a problem author, to come up. So I think
I can go get somebody.
Thomas Meeks would be a good candidate.
Yep.
Because he wrote some of the easier
Some of the problems that are being approached already.
Yep.
Let me go get Thomas Meeks then,
Yep.
and we
Alright.
can hear from him. Yeah.
Wait, I think maybe he might bring them up actually, or they might come up.
Oh, is he coming up?
Let me ask Glenn, which by the way is our chief judge. So Glenn basically oversees all the other judges, makes sure all the judges are doing what they're supposed to, writing solutions, data, making sure the set and the contest is as good as possible. I think, Cam, maybe you should go down and see what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Go get him.
All right, it seems like Doral Academy number 1 has solved their 5th problem, that is building, on their 2nd attempt. Seems like, Yeah, I think actually we can actually pull up the scoreboard on here. Let me do that so you guys can see that as well. So yeah, this is the current scoreboard. We have 6 problems solved, 5 here. Oh, and it seems like we have our problem author, Thomas Meeks. So you could
Right in there.
What's up, man?
sit here.
Oh.
All right, so this is how
Famous.
the stream looks. So Thomas Meeks, basically, can you just introduce yourself to the stream? The camera's right there.
Yeah. So I'm one of like the problem authors for the contest today. There's like a bunch of us, but I wrote some of the problems. You do not get to find out which ones, though. I don't think that's information I'm allowed to share. Yeah. Yippee.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
can you explain a little bit what's your experience with competitive programming?
Yeah, I actually started competitive programming with HSBT a few years ago. I got like
For which high school?
Freedom High School,
Freedom
which
High School.
I
They're
think it's
looking
currently
pretty good right now.
currently
Yeah,
representing
I
pretty
think
well.
they're in first place
They're
right now.
looking
Yeah,
pretty
with
good
6
right now.
problems.
Yeah,
And 2 dark
I
rings.
believe the team that's in first place, one of my teammates from when I competed, is on that team still because
That's great.
we had a bit of a grade difference. So nice representation. Yeah.
So you did HSBT for 2 years? Or?
No, I got into competitive programming right at the end of my senior year. I did SI camp, which is like a camp that UCF runs to kind of train high schoolers for competitive programming.
Mhm.
Then I got to UCF and joined the programming team, and now I do this kind of stuff like write problems for HSPT and yeah, so it's been fun.
Oh, Meeks, can you scoot in a bit just so you're more in the shot?
True.
All right, and I guess why did you want to become an HSBT judge? Why did it interest you?
I just like I really enjoy writing problems. Sometimes you come up with problem ideas and you like sometimes you can read a problem and sometimes you misread a problem and you go, oh, if this alternate interpretation of the problem I had is also a fun problem, and then that gives you ideas to like develop your own, or you just develop your own problems like with experience. Like last year I wrote a problem called dice, and that one ended up being quite a challenging problem because it used a technique that I ended up like coming up with during just one of like the contests that I participated in, and so you know you get inspired when it comes to like writing the problems.
Yeah,
So
I think I can definitely say for myself, I've also had that experience where I misread the problem and think it's a different problem and think, oh, this would be an interesting problem to basically solve or implement or just propose at HSBT.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
I guess let's say regarding the problems that you did write,
Yeah.
which I think honestly, I think it's fine if you
it's
mention which ones have been
Yeah.
which
So
you wrote.
this year I wrote So True, building and placing, or building gazebos and placing gazebos. I didn't actually expect both of the gazebo-related problems to make the set this year, so it's a nice little coincidence that we have a bit of continuity between problems.
Yeah,
and
it's
so-
funny how we have 2 problems about gazebos.
Yeah. Just one day I said the word gazebo and I was like, oh, that's a fun one to say.
Yeah.
And so that's incorporated in the flavor text.
So is that I guess with basically I'm trying to ask like basically what inspired you to write about those gazebo problems? Was it just like were these problems that you had already thought of and you just wanted to incorporate the word gazebo, or was the idea of a gazebo?
Yeah, usually for me the problem idea comes first, and then I just like find flavor text that makes it work around it. Except for So True. So True, I'm very proud, even though it's like one of the easier problems on the set, it's one that I'm very proud of because I think it's an elegant problem with an elegant solution.
So what exactly do you mean by flavor text to someone who might not know what that means in context?
Yeah, so like for competitive programming problems, especially for HSPT, where we really make sure that we have nice stories and flavor texts for the problems. A lot of times, you in some other platforms, you might see a competitive programming problem that like plainly states you're given an array, do these operations, right? And those are typically very boring to read, and so we try to incorporate stories into them and make them more interesting to read, and like figure out like what is the problem, and like make it a multi-step process of like analyzing the text, figuring out what the problem is in like the most reduced terms, and then solving that, instead of just like straight up telling you, hey, do XYZ. And so when we refer to the word flavor text, what we really mean is anything that is perhaps not crucially relevant to the problem, but is instead the surrounding story. And so usually when I develop problems, I think of the problem first, and then find the most fitting flavor text that I think goes with the problem. There are other authors who like do it the other way around. Sometimes you just get both at the same time. You just like it comes together divinely, like in a dream. You just have the entire problem, flavor text, everything that just works out. And so it's like a multi-step process.
I see.
Yeah.
I think that's actually one of the cool parts about HSPT is that we do have a lot of flavor text, which I guess is a story about the problem. Yeah. So that's one of the interesting parts. So I think you mentioned that that you wrote placing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually have 3 submits actually so far on placing. These unfortunately were wrong submits.
Yeah.
But out of those 3 problems that you wrote, which one do you think is your favorite?
That's a hard one. It's probably between placing and so true. Like placing is a very representative problem of like competitive programming, I think. Like I do like it, but I think so true, even though it's like maybe perhaps an easy problem, it's just a very elegant problem, and so I think that's definitely my favorite that I wrote on this set. And so I would go with so true.
So true.
It's going to be interesting to see how the other ones get solved, because it seems so true has nearly every team has solved it. I think every team will solve it by the end, I hope. So I think it's gonna work out.
Yeah, it seems like a majority of the teams have already solved so true.
Yeah.
It seems to be one of the more approachable problems in the problem sets.
Oh yeah, definitely. The 2 most approachable problems are so true and invaders by far.
Yep, according to the scoreboard. Yep.
Scoreboard seems to align with our expectations. The scoreboard in general, I think, is very in line with what the judges were expecting for like submissions, when people are going to submit, what's going to happen. It's kind of all going to according to expectations this year, which is not always the case. Last year we had perhaps like a different expectation of difficulties of certain problems, and so this year it seems, at least so far, that we have kind of gotten it right.
Yeah.
I see it. AC on pseudonym.
Yeah,
nice.
It
That's
seems
a
like we've
quick
gotten
solve.
our first submit on pseudonym. Our first AC on pseudonym, with First Academy getting a dark green on that, boosting then the top of the 5 problems solved.
That's a pretty impressive solve. That one is like a pretty heavy problem, so getting it this early on is a nice.
Yeah, it seems like according to the scoreboard, it seems to be one of the harder problems of the set.
I would tend to agree. I think that there is quite a jump in difficulty after like the 7, I'll say the 6 freedom has, and then perhaps like espionage. After that, in my opinion, this isn't like exactly an exact science. There's probably a significant jump in difficulty after that. Like nothing unfair, but the problems get harder. We could see a bit of a slowdown as the contest progresses.
Thomas, you also mentioned that you did SI camp. Now, I assume you, since you are a HSPT judge, you go to UCF, and Can you explain more about like the competitive programming you do here at UCF?
Yeah, so like for competitive programming at UCF, we primarily train for the Southeast Regionals. So the Southeast Regionals contest is a contest held. In my experience, it's always been held in when was it this year? I don't even know. February. But that's actually out of the norm. It's usually in November. But so that one we trained for. Juan's pretending to not know me, but we're in a team together. And we just a few weeks ago we participated in the regionals. If you get first place in your school at the regionals and you get like top 3 in the regionals, you can move on to NAC. We have very, very strong teams here at UCF. So us specifically, sadly, we're not able to get to NAC, but we do have a team from UCF going to NAC, which will represent us well. And so like that's the main plan. Main goal is like our primary contest is regionals, and moving past that, you go to NAC and potentially World Finals, and so that's the goal that a lot of the programming team members work towards here at UCF, since that's like the primary ICPC competition line.
Cameron, do you have any other questions for Thomas? I asked him of his inspiration to write these problems. I asked him what his favorite problems were, and also
Did he say which ones he wrote?
He did.
Okay.
He mentioned he wrote So True, Invaders, and Placing.
Yeah.
Wait, actually,
It's interesting to see how quickly 2 of those were solved by teams. 2 of those actually within 1 minute each.
Yeah,
Wow,
both of
So
those
True
problems
and-
were solved.
Yep.
And building was solved.
I thought Invaders was Tyler.
Invaders is Tyler. He said building is you guys.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I think placing is gonna be a while.
When are you expecting the first solve?
If it gets solved, probably I want to say somewhere around the 3-hour mark.
Okay.
I think it's one of the hardest problems on this. Oh, never mind. I'm just wrong. It literally just got solved. Like as I said,
That's
that
crazy
56
how we're
minutes
talking
solved.
about it.
That's
Which team
Yeah.
has the solve?
It
'Cause I
seems
can't
like
see it from my view on here.
if we pull it up on the stream,
actually just to prove me wrong.
Wow,
As
that's
I was saying
what a
the words.
coincidence.
it
As
seems
we
like
start talking
Horizon
about
High
it.
School number 1 got the first solve on
That
Placing.
is a great solve.
Awesome.
Nice job to them. I'm gonna look at their submission later when I get back to the judging area.
That's a dark green. There's other submissions on that problem I'm noticing. I hadn't caught that before.
I would imagine those submissions may not be intended, if that makes sense. Like
you also thought it'd be solved at 3
you know,
hours.
maybe
we'll
I should
find
just
out.
stop. Maybe I should just stop.
We'll find
saying
out.
things.
Yeah, we'll find
without-
Yeah,
out.
basically what Cameron is saying, that he thought that Thomas would solve these those problems that Thomas wrote would be solved at the 3rd hour.
So
I don't know if the mic can pick you up, basically.
I'm completely wrong on that. That's a really good solve early on. That I think is gonna
It'll
help
be
them out a lot.
interesting to see if other teams start going for it now, seeing that this problem is
Yeah,
solved.
that could actually.
It seems like
completely
West
change.
Boca actually just got the second solve on pseudonym with
Awesome.
in 2 submits. It seems like most teams are having to do 2 submits for pseudonym.
Yeah, pseudonym.
It's a heavier problem than some of the others, so there's definitely more potential for error in that one.
Yeah,
That is correct.
That's no surprise.
Wait, Thomas, you mentioned you wrote 3 problems. What would you say goes into the process of preparing and implementing these problems so they can show up in this set?
So much.
Can you just give us a
Yeah.
high overview?
level, yeah,
High
high
level.
level.
High level overview.
HSPT is multiple months in the making. So it kind of goes. Yeah, all the judges give proposals for problems, right? So a lot of problems are written, and then we narrow that down to using multiple voting processes and discussion. We narrow that down to the problems that are on the set. Once we have finally chosen what's on the set, there are now multiple meetings over a course of a couple weeks of editing problems, making sure that everything is correct. There are no mistakes, grammar mistakes. I can tell you honestly that my problems are some of the ones that have to get grammar edited the most. I'm perhaps not the most talented writer on the judging team, and so as soon as these problems have been thoroughly edited, we have then mock contests to make sure we bring in new people with fresh eyes to make sure that they don't see any ambiguities that we might not have noticed because of how familiar we were with working with the problems. Then I guess before that we have data makers, we have solution writers. We make sure everything is independent and separate so that there are multiple forms of verification to prevent any mistakes going through, because you can write even one small mistake could end up causing a lot of teams a lot of problems, and so we really want to make sure that there's no bad data or stuff like that. So we have multiple people checking, we have verifiers, multiple solutions getting written to make sure that by the time the problems get to HSBT, there is hopefully nothing going wrong. And so you can submit with confidence and know your verdict is like a proper verdict. We also try to really make strong data. We don't want solutions that are, because it is for some problems it's not possible to test literally every possible case. So you need to test every as many cases as you can that will catch as many wrong solutions as you can. So we go through a really a laborious process of thinking of potential edge cases that people might have, different potential solutions that we want to make sure any flaws in in those solutions are found. And so the data making process is intense and also very thorough. And so we try to make sure data, problem, specs, everything. Try to keep the quality high,
Yeah, that seems like something that would be super important for a contest of this level.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure all three of us have partook in a contest where a mistake was made in the writing or in the data, and it can be a really interesting experience for the
It is not the best experience if there's a problem in the
No,
data
it isn't.
or the statement.
No, it isn't.
So I think we
do a lot of due diligence,
precautions
to make sure that doesn't happen. Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
and the organization is great. This whole process is very well organized, and we get it done.
All right, thanks Thomas for answering these questions, and thanks for just coming up here and just taking time out of your day to
It's been
answer
an
these
honor
questions.
having you on here.
Yep.
Man.
Loved having you.
Yeah.
Anybody watching, go to SI Camp. It's fun.
That is true.
Well, most of the people you might want to tell that to are currently competing, but
that's
also
true.
good.
True. Watching this after.
Also interesting.
Go to SI Camp. Parents watching, sign up your kid for SI Camp. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some viewers out there that are that are in high school and could go to SI.
Go
Few
Yep, that
shameless
is true.
plugs there. No
Yep.
problem. Awesome. Cool to get a chance to see the scoreboard. 4 teams with 6 solved. Wow.
So just to show you, I think we have right now just the scoreboard showing up. I think we can leave it like
you
that
have
for
the
now.
scoreboard there?
Yep.
Well, we have the scoreboard behind us, so let's jump back into the normal view.
Yep.
Nice.
All right.
They saw the scoreboard for a bit. They can see this one now.
Yep. Yeah, so now we have 4 teams with 6 problems solved. I think
Unbelievable. All one submits on most of these.
all
a
of
couple
these,
with 2.
all of these teams except
Wow.
for the First Academy number 1 has solved letter. First Academy has attempted it, but they have not been able to successfully solve the problem.
That's going to bring them to a 7th solve if they can get that one across the finish line.
Yep.
That'll be
They
a
are the
big
only
milestone.
team out of these top 4 to
Yeah.
have solved pseudonym. So that is a great,
That's not a bad spot to be in
It's a
because they
great
got
spot.
a good chance. They got a good chance
They have
of
a good
getting that
chance
one.
of solving letter. That is correct.
Absolutely. Also, the top team submitting on pseudonym, which is solved by a few other teams. Looks like 2 others.
And it seems like we now have 77 teams who have gotten a correct verdict on their submissions. So that's really cool to see. That majority of our teams have gotten a correct verdict.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Looks like aside from So True and Invaders, Flow and Building seem to be the next two easiest. Seeing a lot of solves
That
on
seems to
those,
be
and then
correct.
it trickles off quite a bit after those four.
Mm-hmm.
We've got those primary four, and then the problems seem to get significantly more challenging, more laborious.
Oh, it seems like the First Academy is now just submitted on
A submission coming in the queue?
placing gazebos. If they get this problem, this would propel them to 7 problems.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think we actually missed one.
We
Freedom
just
High
saw
School.
a seventh come
The
through.
7th come from Freedom High School, number 1.
Did they solve espionage? Is that what it is? At the hour 2
Hour and 2
mark?
mark.
Yep.
That is what got them to 7 problems.
Solve on espionage. That's a phenomenal solve.
And the First Academy actually has a current submission for placing gazebos. So if they solve this problem, that will also push them to 7 problems solved.
So we're just awaiting the verdict.
Yep, that's
Wow. Oh, I see some movement. That might be another submission.
All right.
I'm spamming refresh. I'm sure they're sitting in the labs doing the same thing right now, awaiting
Yeah.
that verdict. Let's see. If we look
so-
in the queue.
I guess, Kim, would you maybe talk about what strategies you might employ based off the scoreboard here in, like, if this were you in a contest?
Yeah, it's tough for me to speak too accurately to it since I never actually competed in this contest, but
I guess based off the experiences of the contests you have
yeah,
competed
sure.
in ICPC.
What my strategy would look like from which position?
I guess from, let's say, I guess basically from Freedom High School, what do you do with the rest of this set? How do you
Sure.
then divide it up? How do you...
To be honest with you, I think I'm probably doing exactly what they're doing, and I'm looking at pseudonym, and I'm trying to lock in the AC on that one, especially if I feel like I have that solution, and I feel like I know what needs to happen for that problem. I definitely think I'm trying to get that across the finish line. But after seeing this 56-minute solve, assuming I've taken a look at the scoreboard, I might be either myself or one of my teammates are probably going to be honing in on that problem, trying to find a solution. Since
see.
it appears to be the next from the scoreboard. Not to say that it is, but it appears to be the next most approachable
Based off the scoreboard, yes.
based off the scoreboard.
So just to mention, these teams are teams of 3. So would you then have like all 3 teammates working on pseudonym, or
Yeah.
how would you?
So team strategy can be more complicated than you might think initially. Actually, sometimes in different scenarios, it would call for maybe all 3 team members to look at a problem to get it across the finish line, and other times it might make sense to work in parallel and have 2 team members thinking about a problem while one's on the terminal. This is a 1-terminal contest, so only one person can be coding at a given time. You essentially have 4 hours of coding time, but you have a total of about 12 hours of actual thinking time. You could think of it as 8 too if you want, if you're not counting that implementation time. But
so how does that work? How would someone who's not on the computer, how would they solve problems?
yeah, so when you're off the terminal, generally you're going to be approaching these problems on paper in the booklet right here, writing out ideas, maybe some pseudocode of how you're going to approach the problem when you get a chance to work on it on the terminal. You might also be working with the person directly on the terminal to figure out what's going wrong with their code or how to approach a certain aspect of the problem they're working on.
Yeah, I
it
think
really
I've
comes
heard
down to
that
your team
called
dynamic.
Pair programming.
Pair programming can be
Yep.
employed in programming contests. It comes down to the team dynamic, what the team needs, and how difficult the problems are for the team. For a lot of these top teams who have kept a really good pace throughout the contest and have been solving problems, every 10 to 20 minutes, it probably makes a lot of sense to them to be working on a problem individually, at least right now. That can change later, though, and we'll probably see some different strategies employed in the contest. We might even, I don't want to bait anyone here, have a chance to interview a few contestants after the contest.
That would be interesting.
That would be phenomenal. I'd love the chance to talk to a few contestants.
And I guess I just want to mention that
What are the
First
verdicts?
Academy has gotten espionage, bringing them to 7.
First Academy solved
We
it.
talked about how they had a submission
Okay.
queued up for placing, but that ended up not being a correct verdict. And,
Gotcha.
but
Yep.
they have 2 programs right now that are failing test cases, placing and letter. So if they find those 2 bugs
Whew.
or ideas, they'd be pushed up to 9 problems
Yeah.
solved.
Yep. Even just one of those
Would bring
is
them
gonna
in.
put them in first place, at least in the current state. However, these are all strong teams, and they're probably all working on stuff.
Yeah, maybe let's look at
It's
the
tough
other
to know.
teams down below. It
Yep.
seems like there's like a trickle of like teams that are solving espionage throughout the leaderboard.
We've got some letter solves as well.
Correct.
You know, there's a team. Haggerty High School number 1 has both So True and Invaders, and then they went for letter. A couple teams thinking letter is a bit easier than flow or building. That's
yeah,
interesting.
and I think we have a question in the chat asking if the competition ends at 4. That is correct. The competition started at 12, so it does end at 4.
Take a look. Oh, cool! You can see the chat.
Yeah, we can see the
Oh,
chat.
wait,
So if
actually-
you guys have any questions,
Yeah,
that
we
might be
could-
something we could answer.
We could take some
I'll
questions.
be right back, Cam.
Okay,
I'm gonna use the bathroom.
no problem.
Good luck.
Just me on the stream right now. If anyone has some questions about the standings or problems even, open to answering that. Oh, we just had an 8th solve. Shoot, okay. So the First Academy number 1 looks like they fixed the issue they had with their letter submission and just solved that problem at an hour 10. That's really solid. That's really good for them. Because that gives them an opportunity to either hone in on placing and figure out like how they can fix that, or approach one of these harder problems, which definitely seem to be the hardest 3 of the contest. Now, I'm not sure how much we can say on here. I know we can keep it pretty high level though, but I do think Hero and Decay are expected to sort of be the hardest problems in this contest. With that being said, we'll see what teams think. They are both interesting problems. Hero's more of a game theory type problem. It's a 2-player game where you're kind of looking at what the winning strategy is going to be for each player and determining some result based on a given initial state. Decay is more of a number theory type problem. So students who have a little more background working with number theory, you know, primes and prime factorizations, are going to have a good time approaching Decay, in my opinion. That's awesome. 8th solve. I can also just peek here and try to see what people are working on in general. Oh, Juan's back. Let's let him know. We had an 8th solve. The First Academy number 1 fixed the letter submission that they had.
That is insane.
They got it corrected, yeah. And so they can either hone in on placing now or try to approach one of these others, but I think they have a good chance at solving placing. Oh, you got your lunch there? Nice.
Yep.
Right on. Let me check the chat because I keep forgetting to do that. Oh, someone asked, how's the problem difficulty? Okay, we got Connor O'Malley. Cameron, how is the problem difficulty compared to ICPC competitions? I mean, this contest is for the high school level. ICPC contests are generally held for the college level. At least the regional contest is specifically what I'm looking at. So I'd say there's going to be a pretty decent difference in difficulty overall in the contests. Now, this is a 4-hour contest. The regional is actually 5. The easier problems in this set are maybe a little bit easier than the easiest problems in the regional set. The harder problems are a good bit easier than the hardest problems in the regional contests. And that's going to be about the same for the mid-level problems. What I generally say here is the difficulty of the hard problems is going to be more similar to the difficulty of the mid-level problems. So you just kind of drop off the few easiest here and tack on a few problems that are just a little bit more abstract to approach or require some more knowledge that might be taught at the university level. And that's going to get you closer to an ICPC level. Oh, Kyle Danker, who was actually a former coach of the Timber Creek teams, who seemed to be incredibly fast this year. I mean, both with 1 minute solves on 2 different problems in the set. That's Timber Creek High School team number 1 with the 1 minute solve on So True, as well as Timber Creek High School number 3 1 minute solve on Invaders. We've got a comment from him. That's awesome. Okay. Let's take a look at the queue here. No submissions coming in at this time. So we're kind of entering that part of the contest, at least it seems, where the problems teams are approaching feel a little bit more challenging for everybody, and they're going to require a little bit more time to work out. I think we're going to see some of these teams slowing down a little bit at least. Okay, I think now's a good time for us to just take a quick 5 to 10 minute intermission. We're going to gather some things, but when we come back, we will have a special guest for you, so stay tuned. We're going to interview another special guest. We'll get to hear from another author of all the problems, so definitely stay on the stream, and we'll come back here.
And we're back from the break. So let's see the scoreboard. Seems like we have now multiple teams with 7 problems solved. I think we only had 1 team with 7 problems solved. Now we have 3 teams with 7 problems solved. It seems like now we have multiple teams with 6 problems solved. Now the top 9 teams have 6+ problems solved. That's super cool to see. It doesn't seem, however, like we have any new solves on the problems Hero, Decay, and Fox. So those problems are still to be unsolved.
Those are the hardest ones, in my opinion.
Yep, those seem to be, based off the scoreboard, the hardest problems of the set. Let's see. I know Timber Creek is a really strong school. They've been coming into the contest for multiple years. Their number 1 team is 5 problems solved, putting them in the 12th position.
Who's that?
Timber Creek number 1. That's their number 1.
Okay.
But actually, their number 3 squad is in the 10th position, above their number 1 squad. So I'm not too sure if
Well,
their
I don't know
numbering.
how the numbering works.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the numbering is like based off the strength of the teams. So
You know what?
I
We'll
think-
have a chance to talk to a former participant
Yeah.
from that school.
I
and
think
get
we'll be
their
able
take
to
on it here
interview
pretty
someone.
soon. Yep.
Yep, we'll be able to interview someone who actually went to Timber Creek and is now part of the UCF programming team, and is now an HSBT judge.
I'm looking forward to that because they have such a strong program there. I can't wait to get some inside information about what that's been like.
Yep, Timber Creek always seems to bring a lot of teams and a lot of strong teams.
Absolutely.
And they seem to be really fast, considering they got the first 2 solves of the contest, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Oh, actually, we have a submission on Hero from Doral Academy number 1. But unfortunately, it was not a correct verdict. And also Timber Creek number 2 has 2 submissions on that, but unfortunately they were not correct. I wonder when will the first submit on Hero come in. It seems like it shouldn't take that long. It seems like we have a couple of teams working on that, so hopefully it does not take too long and we can get a dark green on Hero. That would be pretty cool to see. So actually, I think Cam is going to get the team member who used to be on Timber Creek and is now an HSVT judge. That'll be cool to see. We'll have him interview him, ask him questions of how it was to work at, or as to compete as a Timber Creek programming team member. So that'll be pretty cool. So just to recap, I remember we talked about how the first academy had a wrong submission on placing and letter. They seem to have fixed their letter submission, but I think they still haven't not found their bug on placing. So that's something that, if they find, would propel them to 9 problems solved, and which would be 2 problems above the second place, Freedom High School number 1. Let's see. Do we have any questions in the chat? No, it does not seem. I think Kyle Denker is the last comment, who is actually a Timber Creek coach, and is now a UCF professor, or a UCF instructor, I think. I think he's actually going for his PhD, and that's something that he's going for. So I think we're now just waiting on Cameron, who is picking up Savic, who is actually the ex Timber Creek programming team member. We'll be able to talk to him about that. Yep. Oh, it seems like Cameron is here, and he brought in Savic. So I'll have him interview Savic.
Yeah, I'd love to bring a special guest on here. Whoops. Thank you for joining me.
Awesome.
Java, aka the Linkless Man, aka Conqueror of Xylinox, aka Savic Curu.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on, buddy.
Of course.
So, as I
Just to
understand,
make sure you know, it's on the browser and webcam.
oh, I'm gonna transition it back just so
Just transition
we can
back
get
to
a
that.
chance to chat and talk a little bit about it. Okay, cool. So we're live.
Awesome.
So as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're a judge for this contest, which means you created data solutions. Did you write any problems that are in this set?
I did not write any of the problems in here.
Okay.
I did contribute to data solutions like you mentioned. But yeah, that was my
Absolutely. as well as I understand it, you were a former participant in this contest.
It's true.
I think it's true that you actually competed with your 2 ICPC current team members in this very contest. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Our team this year, UCF Catalan, is the exact same team that competed in HSPT 2020
Okay.
as Purple Wolves.
Was that an online form competition? I know that would have been during COVID.
No, it was actually slightly before COVID, so it was in person actually. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So I guess I just want to talk to you a little bit about what your experience as a competitor was first,
Yeah.
what this competition means to you, and then from there we can bridge into some other stuff too. if
Yeah,
you're
for
okay to
sure.
share.
I guess a little bit of background for me. I started competitive programming in like 10th, 11th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually at Timber Creek, competing with Kyle Denker as the coach.
Kyle Denker is who I want to do a shameless plug here, who we mentioned earlier is now a coach of the University of Central Florida team at the college level.
That's true.
So he kind of followed you guys
He
all the
did.
way through.
He did.
He loved your team, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I basically didn't have any experience with competitive programming, but I slowly learned. Started with Java, transitioned to C++. But yeah, we competed in HSPT in 2019 and 2020.
So you competed twice then?
Competed
is
twice.
that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. How did the contest end up faring for you guys? What'd you do to prepare for this contest?
Yeah. So in 2019, I think the best way to prepare is just doing as many problems as you can. Basically, looking at the
Absolutely.
past problem sets which are online.
All available online.
Yep. All online. Doing lots of these coding competitions online, like on Code Forces.
Code Forces is great.
Great platform to learn. So yeah, just doing a bunch of that. And in 2019, I think my team ended up getting 10th place.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, I'll continue to improve. So my team, Purple Wolves, ended up getting first place in HSPT 2020.
Wow. So you're actually a former winner of this contest.
Yeah.
The fact that we even have the opportunity to talk to you is phenomenal. It's an honor having you on this show.
Thank you.
Yep. As Juan's saying over there, exactly. So it sounds like you guys were pretty due diligent, took a lot of time out of your schedules, and invested a lot in preparing for this contest, even at the high school level.
Yeah, for sure. It's a
Okay,
lot
so
of
you
hard
took it
work.
pretty seriously. I mean, of course, it's the case we were talking about, Juan and I. We have teams with varying levels of experience. We have teams who haven't written very many computer programs before, and they're just getting into it. And that's why we create what I think is such a diverse problem set.
Mm-hmm.
So people at any skill level can approach these problems and learn and hopefully have a good time out here today.
Yep.
So now I want to pivot a little bit from talking about your experience as a competitor to what it looks like for you on the judging side.
Yeah.
What made you want to be a judge? Was it your experience as a contestant?
Yeah, I mean, when I competed in HSPT, I felt the problems were like really high quality,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a lot of experience by that point, so
For
I
sure.
wanted to contribute any way I could. So I also
Yep.
like writing problems, trying to see if other teams can solve them.
You
So,
wanted to be a part of it. So
Yeah.
would you say this competition brought you to UCF?
Yeah, I would say so. It was a pretty big decision. I would say this is undoubtedly the best contest in Florida.
Okay. Okay, we can't say too many things.
So
Your
that-
opinion's very valuable to
That's
us, though. Yeah, that's very valuable to us.
Yeah.
So, did you hear about the programming team opportunities at UCF through the high school contest?
Yeah, so actually
Okay.
at Timber Creek is actually, very
It's a kind of a big feeder school for University of Central Florida programming team.
pretty
Yep.
tied into UCF. And
Oh, yeah.
also part of that is due to the fact that, a lot of times teams, including my team in high school, we practice with the developmental team or JV team at UCF
On the weekends.
on the weekends.
Practices are held on Saturdays. This is another plug because participants can go back and watch this. Pretty much everybody, as far as I understand, has the opportunity to practice with teams that are composed of university students at the university level on the weekends, on Saturdays. That's open.
Yeah.
And so if they're interested in doing that, they can, and that's what you guys did.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to contact Aruji for that.
You would have to contact the head coach, Dr. Ruji, of the team, and then he can get the ball rolling along from there. But anyone who's interested in that, we can hopefully provide some means of connection for them to reach out. I think there's some information available for that, and they can get connected if they want. So now pivoting to as a judge, you mentioned you were interested in writing and developing problems. You didn't write any specific problems in this contest, but do you have a specific process that you use when you're coming up with a problem? What do you like to do? If you're trying to write a problem.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
We can even mention something else on this too. I don't think it's going to be too bad.
okay.
We're both co-authoring a Code Forces contest right now as well. So we have a little bit of that writing experience outside the high school tournament as well. So I've worked with Savic in that capacity, and we were also former teammates last year as well. So yeah, it's just been an honor getting a chance to work with this guy here.
Same
but
here.
what's your process? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so sometimes, I'll just, think of a cool problem, and I don't know if I can solve it or not, but
Sure.
maybe if it's not immediately solvable, like maybe I'll tone down the bounds or add some restriction to make sure that it's actually, solvable. And, I've just seen so many problems that, like, I know the ideas that are presented, and, maybe I'll take inspiration from some problem and, like, modify it a bit.
Absolutely.
To make something brand new.
That's interesting because I've listened to a few authors talk about their processes for writing problems, and they can be a little bit different. So it seems like you go the route of, can I tweak this constraint or this constraint, just looking at some abstract idea, such that this thing that might be initially difficult becomes easier, and now I can do it with the things that I know. That's super interesting because I've heard people approach it with, I come up with something that I want to be used to solve a problem, and then try to build a problem around that. So you can almost go either way.
Yeah, you can.
That's interesting. Okay, well, that's cool to hear. I'm also interested in your opinion on the problems we have in this set. I want to take a quick peek at the scoreboard to make sure we haven't missed any big moves. We have 9 solves from the number 1 team.
That is insane.
Are we online? We appear to be live. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. He's reconnecting the scoreboard. Just want to confirm. It appears we lost internet there briefly just for a moment, and that caused a break in the connection, and so we had to restart everything so that we could come back online and keep talking to you guys. Thankfully, that doesn't affect the participants because they are on a different network, which is more secure for the contest environment, so that these kind of issues can be avoided. Can they actually see us? Just trying to make sure that everyone can actually see it. I think we're in the clear. Yep. So last we heard from you guys, we saw 9 solves on the scoreboard. Let's jump back to that. And we also jumped down below. We noticed we had missed a solve on decay, which is believed to be one of the hardest problems in this set, from Atlantic Community High School number 1 at an hour 29 with 2 submits. That's an incredible solve.
That's amazing, yeah.
I wanted to get your take on that and also explain what the problem is for any like competitive programming type interested people who want to think about it on their own. So the problem, I'm not even going to go back into the book, is you are essentially given an array of integers of size 10 to the 6 at most, where you are asked to compute the number of arrays you can construct such that each element of the new array is co-prime to the element with the same index in the old array. The array you're constructing is the same size as the one you're given. The maximum value of any element is on the order of 10 to the 12. You're given that in the input, and you're required to use positive integers. So how many arrays can you construct such that it's the same length as the given array, and every element is co-prime to the given element? There is an additional restriction that I want to note on this problem that is important, which is that in the given array, each element after the first element is some multiple of the element before it. That's an important restriction.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this problem?
Yeah, so personally I thought this was the hardest problem on the set because it's quite math heavy and
Definitely.
number theory heavy.
Definitely.
But like I was mentioning before, I think a lot of the participants are really strong in math. a lot of them have a
Absolutely.
math background,
Absolutely.
like Atlantic, who managed to solve the problem. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it would benefit a lot of those stronger math teams, because I think a lot of the other teams are going to struggle on it. So I think Atlantic is in a really good spot right now. And
Definitely.
what you were mentioning about the bounds on the array, that is really important for this problem, to make it so that it's not impossible, basically. Yeah.
Reasonably solvable,
Reasonably
to
solvable.
say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's some important distinctions to be made in the problem. I mean, one thing to note about this problem is knowledge of number theory and prime factorizations is really what's going to come into play here. And so participants who have pretty decent familiarity with that, whether that be from a math counts contest or wherever else, are probably going to have a good time approaching this problem.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there was a lot of math heavy contestants
We've heard enough from you. No, I'm just kidding.
competing in this competition.
Yeah, I think that's certainly true, and especially with a couple of these problems being more mathematical, as you mentioned, Hero, which is another one of the hardest ones in this contest, which we talked about, and also the summer problem
Yeah.
feels a little bit more mathematical.
Sure.
So if your background is well suited to that, you're going to have a good time on those problems in
Yeah,
this
for sure.
contest. Okay, I want to check the scoreboard one last time to make sure we didn't miss anything as well. And then I also want a chance to talk to you about what your experience with the UCF programming team has been, and like just your college experience, and learn more about that.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, yeah, I tried out for the UCF program team as a freshman. I ended up joining the varsity team, and I've been on the program team this is my 4th year now.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I've just had great experience with it. You know, I love problem solving. That's all I do every day.
This guy's a problem solver.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
Also, just met a lot of great people here.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's been a great opportunity all around. And, you know, I also love competing. I liked it in high school, and I'm glad I got to continue doing that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Sounds like you definitely recommend it to anyone interested in problem
Oh, for
solving.
sure, yeah.
Programming. Okay, that's awesome to hear. How does that tie in with your studies at UCF, being a computer science student?
Yeah, so...
And what has your experience been with that, too?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm a computer science major here at UCF. You know, I think, you know, being on the programming team has helped me a lot with my classes in particular, like, you know, like CS2, for example. You know, all they go over is algorithms and data structures.
An algorithms heavy course.
Algorithms are a heavy course. So,
Yep.
you know, it supplements that pretty well. And, yeah, I think my courses here have been pretty great as well. You know, a lot of great professors here.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
I've had a pretty good experience here at UCF in general.
I just want to note, too, the opportunity to work with the coaches of the UCF programming team, some of which are also lecturers and professors at the university, is super unique because collectively they have, I mean, probably something that sums to 100 years of experience working with coaching and programming competitions.
And actually, some of them are helping out with the contest, actually.
Some of them are also playing pretty big roles in this contest as well that we have here today. So definitely a shout out to them.
For sure.
Our chief
They
judge.
make it happen for everybody. That includes our chief judge, that's Glenn Martin, as well as Dr. Ruji, who is the head coach of the programming team as well.
Can't
Travis
forget
Mead,
Travis.
you have Travis Mead, who's involved, chief host, hosting the contest on the contest floor with the participants. So a lot of involvement from that side as well. Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to direct over here to the conqueror of Xylinox?
So what have you guys talked about in total? Like, what have you guys talked about?
Well, he shared a little bit about his experience as a UCF student and being on the programming team, his take on a few of the harder problems, his process writing problems, and just generally the experience he had with the high school contest.
Yeah, I guess one thing I remember that you mentioned in your interview is that you switched from Java to C++. Cam actually earlier mentioned that a lot of the contestants are using Java for the submissions. Why did you switch from Java to C++? Because I remember that Java was a big part of your personality. It's
Yeah.
actually
A big part of your personality.
Yeah.
This guy is Java, as
On
you know.
Code Forces,
Yeah.
Code Forces, yeah.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
why did you make the switch? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, first I started off as on Java because that was just my first programming language that I learned. You know,
From what? From where did you learn it from?
Well, it was just in high school. Like we had the computer science course, like AP Computer Science, and that's basically a Java course.
I see.
So yeah, I learned Java there, and I used it in competitive programming for many years. I was pretty stubborn about it because I think it's a great language. But I will say in competitive programming, C++ is objectively the best language.
Why is that?
Yeah, so a lot of the STL is really nice to use, but the main thing is speed.
What's an STL? Just so like other viewers who might not know, what's that?
Yeah, so the STL is just a standard library.
Okay.
So yeah, so C++ has a lot of convenient features, including from the STL. It's also very fast.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times you might get TLE with Java, many other contests. So to prevent any of that happening, I just switched to C++.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we can address here is we actually do a different time limit for different languages because different languages execute in different times. And so we try to accommodate that in the high school contest. We don't do that because we want to do... I'm going to move on. So
yeah, basically we try to accommodate all
basically we try to accommodate all languages. So regardless of your programming background and familiarity, you can come and participate in this contest and not have that be like
a deterrent.
Yeah, a deterrent essentially. Yeah. One is addressing that I was not supposed to mention that on this stream. I'll obviously be regressing my decision of mentioning that later. Could be super interesting for me, so if you guys could just wish me a good night, like I think I might need that. Just to jump over to the standings real quick and see how things are looking. We are at the 2-hour mark, halfway through the contest. If we haven't by now, which it feels like we definitely have generally, teams are going to be slowing down. I mean, the top team only has 3 problems left. Below that, we've got some teams with 8, some teams with 7, 6, 5.
Seems like every team has submitted on a problem.
Let's take a look. We're seeing teams down here who even had quick solves on both Sotru and Invaders, and they're having trouble with getting that next problem. Looking down the scoreboard here, we've got almost every team with a solve. One team working for that first one. Hopefully they can get that on the scoreboard. I'm not streaming this. I can stream it. Now folks can actually see what I'm looking at here. Any predictions for final solves on Hero, Decay, Placing, or any of the others in the contest that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I thought personally Decay was going to be solved in like the last hour, but obviously, that's there. But now I'm thinking, Hero's also pretty difficult problem, so I'm thinking that's also going to be solved in the last hour of contest.
Last hour.
Yeah.
You don't think it'll get solved before that mark?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty difficult problem.
So I heard that something special happens in the last hour. Could you maybe mention, Cam, what happens in the last hour regarding the scoreboard?
Don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to at this point. I feel I've already overstepped the line.
Yeah, so I think in the last hour, the scoreboard gets frozen, and we can't see basically if this submission was correct. So we'll be able to see if a team has submitted on a problem, but we won't be able to see if it was a correct verdict.
We can only see how many times they submitted on that problem in the last hour. That's
correct.
All
that
the
is
information
correct.
we'll have, and we will know that at the time of submission more or less if we follow the scoreboard fairly closely.
That is correct.
So that'll give us some some inclination as to what might be going on with the problems. We can make guesses.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, super proud of all the teams we have here.
Yeah.
Awesome to have the chance to talk to a first place contestant, former, right here. That's incredible. A nice plug for the UCF team as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I mean, yeah, I'm super humbled by the opportunity to be a judge. You know, it's always
I'm
awesome.
humbled. I'm humbler. I'm even more humbled. I'm even more humbled.
I'm humbled to have you as a friend.
Thank you.
And
I'm humbled to have the chance to sit down with you and talk about this contest.
Thank you. Yeah, I think everybody on the UCF program team is great. Great people to hang out with.
Absolutely.
This contest is great. So yeah.
It's phenomenal. Okay.
It is.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, for
Cool.
sure. All right. Have a good stream.
We'll
All
see
right,
you around.
yeah, we'll see
Yep.
you.
Take care of yourself, bub.
All right, let's give an update of the scoreboard.
Yes. Let's take a look at what's going on with these problems. Close it on the way out. Thank you. See what we got.
Seems
going
like we
on.
now have 2 teams with 8 problems solved.
So I've got
seems
the
like
scoreboard up
placing.
and jump back here into the cam. We'll see us.
It seems like placing is like the most approachable after
Of the remaining. Okay.
that the first academy has not solved.
Interestingly, when we heard from the author, Thomas, his prediction was last hour. We
Yep.
saw the solve come in right away.
So it looks like Thomas was wrong about that.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
It can be hard for authors to predict the difficulty of their problems with so little knowledge on the contestant's background and level of experience.
that is correct. One person, a problem that might be hard for one contestant might be easy for another.
Absolutely.
It
We
all
see that with
depends-
Decay down here on the scoreboard.
It all depends on their skill sets and what they've been studying and practicing in the days leading up to the contest.
Certainly true. Certainly true. And we see that with this Decay solve, which still has yet to be solved by another team. A submission from the First
the
Academy.
First
They're at the
Academy.
top. You guys can see they are attempting that problem. We also have other teams attempting Fox. I want to call out Atlantic Community High School number 1, who's also solved Fox.
That is insane.
Atlantic Community
They've solved both Decay and Fox.
has 2 problems which other teams have found incredibly challenging.
And they have not solved flow, which seems to be a problem that's easier. So that's interesting to see.
For all the other teams, at least,
Yeah.
their knowledge or background might have made them more well suited to these problems, or it might just be the case that they were going after these.
It seems like their skill sets are suited for those problems.
Yes, it certainly does. However, what's interesting to me is Fox, and I'm not going to reveal too much here, but is also a sort of a graph type problem. Yeah, it's it's a graph type problem which requires a similar skill set in my mind to flow.
Yeah, I completely
So
agree.
that's what's interesting to me is that they have that one but not flow. We might see a
Yeah.
difference there. I just saw another solve come up.
That is interesting. Yeah, one would assume that if you
You
could
would
Fox,
think-
Fox, you could solve flow.
You would think. So they
But maybe
might,
they've
they
been
might have not
prioritizing
approached
other
it.
problems.
They might
So
have
they
not
just
approached
might
it.
not
And
prioritize
if
it,
they
yeah.
take a look at the scoreboard, they'll probably have a pretty good chance at getting that 6th solve, which would bring them up quite a bit. And if they can get one of these other ones, they'll be in a pretty solid position.
And if I remember correctly, the First Academy did their first submit on placing near like the first hour. So it seems like
it was
they have-
early on, I believe.
It was pretty early on. It seems like they have not submitted since then.
They decided to move to Pseudonym and Fox, I think. They had a wrong submit on Pseudonym. They got that one. And then they moved to Fox.
If they find what their issue was in the program, that would propel them to 10 problems solved. And that would be a pretty solid lead, especially at this point in the contest.
Oh, yeah. It honestly looks like they decided to go for K at the moment, though. They have a submission on it.
Yeah.
So they might have just said, we don't know what's going wrong with placing. Let's solve some more problems.
Yep. They're the only
Yeah.
other team to have submitted on Decay.
They might have the solution to that problem, and they also just need to look for a potential bug there.
There
It's
might be
tough
an
to know.
edge case that they're missing.
Can we see the verdict?
I'm
Oh,
not too
another
sure.
submission on decay coming in. I can't see the team.
That would be team
Looking at the queue.
First Academy. That would be the First Academy doing their second submit on decay. Let's see what the status.
Are you sure it's the first?
Yep, it is the
Okay.
First Academy submitting on decay.
And we also have another submit on building coming in from a team. I can't tell who it is.
On building, that would be West Boca Raton. And it seems like First Academy did not get decay on their second submit.
They did not. What
Seems
was the
like-
verdict?
I am
Wrong
answer.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like these hard problems are not something that you can just see the solution right away. It's like something you have to work through and figure out and debug. Because
Definitely.
even Atlantic Community High School took 2 submits to solve this problem.
Yep.
So they were not even correct on their first submit.
Yep, that's correct. Definitely more challenging problems in the contest. It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do here, if they continue to approach decay, or maybe they go back and take another look at placing. Maybe they already are.
Yeah, it seems like with 3 people, you could have some people working on decay and some people working on placing. I
Yep.
think that might be the strategy right now.
Definitely.
That might be a team to ask what their strategy was leading into the last hour.
That would be a phenomenal interview if we could pull those guys over before they get swept onto the red carpet. We'll see if we get an opportunity to do
Yep.
that. Yep. Okay. Cool. I'd love the chance to talk to another author even.
Yeah. So I know we have 2 more authors that we can interview.
Awesome.
I know one of them has written decay, the other has written hero, which is the
Yeah.
unsolved problem.
Yeah, it'd
I
be
remember
great
correctly.
to hear from each of them. Let's take, what do you want to say, a quick intermission here, and when we come back, we can.
Well, I think you can actually stay on, and I can bring one of them up.
You can stay on, and I can bring one of them up.
I
That
think-
works.
I think that works. If I can
That would
bring
work.
one of them up, and you
That-
can stay here.
You could stay here, and I can bring one of them up.
Actually,
That
I'll bring
definitely
them up
works.
right now.
Okay, go for it. I'll keep this going.
All right, you go do that.
Let's see what we got. Okay. Pulling up the queue again so I can see what's coming in. Got submissions on pseudonym and building. He's got a different view, so he's actually able to see which teams are submitting. I don't have that information. Yeah, I don't have that information. Jumping into waiting for just a second here while we pull up this next one. Okay, Juan's here with a special guest, another one of our authors joining us.
That is
Excited to get the
correct.
chance to talk to her. We have Natalie Longton.
Yep. Who's actually a problem author, one of the 3 problem authors of the set. So actually, Natalie, I think you should sit here.
Sure.
So Natalie, I guess maybe a quick introduction would be good if you just introduce yourself. I guess you're going to UCF. Just like introduce yourself.
That's right. My name is Natalie Longton, and I'm a senior here at UCF. So, a couple months away from graduating, and I've been on the varsity programming team for all 4 years of my undergrad. Yeah, and it's been a really great time.
Yeah. I guess. What is some of your experience with competitive programming? How'd you get into it? How long have you been doing it?
I started competitive programming when I was a freshman in high school, and I kind of just decided to try it out. But then I realized it was really interesting. I loved solving problems and learning about new algorithms and data structures. So I'm like, when I'm in college, maybe I'll just pursue computer science. So it was really my inspiration for even picking my major. And yeah, it's exciting because I actually competed in HSPT when I was in high school. So this is the 8th HSPT I've been involved in some capacity. So I've done 4 as a contestant and then 4 as a judge, which is really exciting.
Yeah, didn't you go to the same high school as Savic, our previous judge that we brought on to the stream?
That's right. Yeah, we were on a team in high school, and we're actually on a team for a couple years in university. Yeah.
I guess so. Since you competed in high school, I guess that means you also competed in HSVT, or?
Yeah, that's right. I competed in HSPT for 4 years.
4 years.
In high school.
So you had a lot of experience.
Oh yeah, it's been great. The contest is always. It was like my favorite contest, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the contests we did in high school, it is by far the best organized and had the best problems, I feel like. Yeah.
So would you say HSPT was like a highlight of your competitive programming in high school?
Certainly, it was.
Do you think it might have been a factor into why you chose to come to UCF?
I think so. I think the competitive programming team and seeing the cool stuff that they were doing was definitely a good determining factor for why I decided to go to UCF. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess you're an HSPT judge this year. I guess why was that something you wanted to do this year?
I really love being HSPT judge, especially because I was a contestant. It is really interesting to see like what goes on behind the scenes, and I really like writing problems for it. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and I like the actual contest day. It's just a lot of fun to hang out with everyone and judge people's submissions.
Yeah. So I guess you are a problem author of the problems. What problems in specific did you write?
Yeah, so I wrote 4 of the problems for this contest. I wrote Missing You from Letterland, Pen Pen the Hero, 1999 Bizarre Summer, and Clocks on Bricks and Blocks. It seems...
Yeah, it seems like Hero is actually our only unsolved problem of the contest.
That's right.
Was that something you expected, or was that something that surprised you?
I'm not altogether surprised that there aren't any solves yet. It was, I think, one of our 2 hardest problems. I am a little surprised, I guess, that DK got solved first before Hero. But we still have 1.5 hours, so...
Still a lot of time in the contest, yeah.
I would be surprised if Hero didn't get at least 1 solve by the end.
Yeah, do you think we might see a set solve from our number 1 team, or any other team that's looking to get a set solve here?
At first I was thinking that a set solve wouldn't happen, but we are kind of getting close. Like the first academy has 9, and that's pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
So
You can also see the scoreboard here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I would still place my bets on a set solve not happening, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised also if it did happen.
That makes sense. I guess some people are curious, like, how does it, what were you thinking in, basically, what's the process in creating implementing one of these problems so it can then show up in the set?
Like the process of writing a problem?
Yeah, like how did you come up with the problem? How do you then implement it and write it out? How do you then basically guarantee it goes well when we're running the contest?
Sure.
As a judge, as a writer?
Yeah, so as a writer, I'd say like a lot of my ideas are like variants of other problems I've solved.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes like the flavor text would come to me first, and then I'm like, okay, I need a problem to fit it. And then once you write a problem, you know, we have a very rigorous process to make sure that the problem is top quality. So the author writes it, and then we have all the other judges kind of reading over these problems, and then once the problems are selected, they go through the editing process, and authors make edits, and then we write all the solutions and data and really try to make sure that it's the best that it can be by the contest day. So this whole process takes around 2 months. Yeah.
So it sounds like you combine ideas from different problems to then create problems of your own.
Yeah, pretty much.
I see. That's pretty cool. And I guess, what else here? Do you have a favorite problem of yours that you wrote, or like a favorite problem of the problems that you didn't write? Is that
a favorite problem
in the set?
Let's see. I really like a letter just because I must have spent like 2 or 3 hours coming up with the words fairness, brightness, princess, and it's
with
like
the flavor text.
Yeah, and like those specific words are like critical to realizing the actual solution. Like they are not just arbitrary words. Took me a bit, but I'd say it was probably one of my most creative efforts in problem writing.
Yeah, because I know you generally have like a couple of problems like every year. Like your problems generally make the set, and you're generally a problem author for HSPT.
Yeah, that's right. It's always a pleasure. I like when my problems get on the set.
So I guess pivoting to more your career in college, how has that been going? And is there like anything in specific that you've enjoyed in your 4 years at being at UCF and on the UCF programming team?
Yeah, so the programming team has just been a great time, and I've gotten the opportunity to work with so many brilliant people and just hang out. So I have really made a lot of friends on the programming team, which is amazing. And I think like a lot of lifelong friendships have probably come from programming team. Something else that's cool is our team qualified to go to World Finals, which is happening next month. We're going to Egypt, so
that's your team from last year, right?
That is. It got like delayed. The whole contest got delayed a lot due to COVID and everything like that. But yeah, so it's our last time.
So that's something I guess your team has been preparing for through the coming weeks leading up to the contest.
Yeah, we have been training quite a bit for that, as much as we are able to, because one of our teammates actually has graduated. So so we do the very best we can to train for that. And
I think he's working a full-time job, so
that's right.
It might be a struggle to find times that coordinate.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we do our best. I think it's gonna be good.
Do you guys have a specific goal for the World Finals?
Oh, probably not. Well, at least I don't have a specific goal. It's probably just to have a good final contest and just have fun, do our best. That's all I want to do, I think.
Yeah, I guess. Do you have any plans for after college, after you graduate?
After college, I think I'll probably travel a bit to visit some family. And then I recently signed an offer to return to Microsoft full time in Redmond.
In Redmond, that sounds.
Yeah.
Sounds
So
awesome.
yeah, I think I'm excited. It's going to be really fun.
That sounds
I think.
fun. Yeah. I think the
Yeah.
work there would be really interesting.
Oh yeah, I was there as an intern a couple summers ago, and I think I really liked it. I really liked the team, and I will be returning back to that like same organization. It's
Mhm.
the OneDrive SharePoint business group. So yeah.
And do you think? I guess some people might be wondering, like, do you think competitive programming has helped you land that job, or like helped you in the interview process, or like even get the interview in the first place? Do you think that might have helped?
Oh yes, competitive programming. It's helped me a lot in the interview process, especially because when you have more experience coding up answers to problems, then it kind of comes naturally to you, and during the interview I'd say those skills without a doubt carry over. And yeah, it definitely did play a role in me being able to secure some interviews and opportunities that I have. So yeah.
You heard it here. Competitive programming gets you interviews. All right, Natalie, it was great having you on here. It was great. Thanks for like taking time to come up here and answer some questions.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's been really great. Yeah.
All right, we'll let you go back to your judging station and judge some prompts.
Alright.
All right, thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good luck to everyone.
Thank you. All right, Cameron. Should we look at the scoreboard and see any updates?
Let's see what we got going. Looks.
Well, the first has now 3 submits on the K. They still unfortunately have not been able. But I know the Atlantic community, which was a team that we highlighted earlier on that solved Decay and Fox pretty relatively early on, and according to our expectations, has now jumped up to 5th place with 8 problems solved.
Yes, that's correct. They came through with flow at the 2:12 mark.
Yep.
5 minutes later with letter at 2:17.
And then 12 minutes later with Summer.
That's
at
right, and they
2:24.
had submissions on that already, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
They were able to fix that right away. We've seen a huge jump for them now at 8 problems. That decay solution might be the key to success for them
So
today.
in the span of 12 minutes, they solved 3 problems.
So their strategy might have just been, let's find a problem we think we can do on the harder side. Let's solve it to give us a solid advantage, and then come back and make up for it on the easier ones, so that we can ensure we get that hard solve early in case it takes us a lot of time. That's a
Yep.
risky strategy to employ.
Yep, you have to have confidence that you will then solve
That
those
you will get
easier-
the hard one, yeah,
you will get
and
the
the
hard
easier.
one and have time to solve the easier ones.
That's right. That's a very risky strategy to employ, and that can accrue you quite a bit of penalty. I mean, you'll notice they have 700 points, while some of the other teams, the Freedom High School #1 team, has 285 points.
Yeah.
With
That
the
is
same number
a
of
big
solves.
difference, yeah.
That's a huge difference. So they're going to need an extra solve in this contest if they
Yep.
want to make it happen.
Yep, but they are still missing espionage, which by the looks is the next
Yeah,
solved.
That is
problem?
how it looks, but by their skill set, any of these might be approachable. I mean, they
Yep.
had the familiarity for decay, and they may feel that way about another problem too.
Yep, Atlantic could surprise us with our first hero solve.
Yeah.
I think they would be the team, considering they got the solve on Decay.
Maybe,
and Fox.
maybe, but I wouldn't rule out any of these other teams as well.
Of course.
I wouldn't rule any of them out.
There's been many surprises in this contest.
There have.
I would not be surprised.
You'll notice too, one thing I want to note is every team has solved a problem in this contest as far as I can tell,
Yep, that is
which
correct.
is exceptional. We have some exceptional participants today. Let's see. Okay, and it looks like that top team, the First Academy #1 with 9 solves, submitted again on decay since we last saw with 2 submissions.
Correct.
Now up to 3. So we'll wait and see what happens with those two.
Mm-hmm.
Also seeing submits on Hero is
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Coming in from Doral Academy, West Boca Raton Community High School, and even Timber Creek High School number 2. And even down here, we have Montverde Academy attempting it, Trinity Prep.
Yep.
So we have a lot of teams attempting it.
Yep.
It seems like these were incorrect.
That's how
submissions.
game theory problems can tend to be. It can
Yeah.
feel like the solution might be easier or harder than it actually is, and you might have a strategy that you think is optimal for one of the players that turns out to be suboptimal. It can be very deceiving, and that can be tricky with these type of problems.
Yeah, from my experience, game theory problems are generally problems where like you might think you have the solution, but then when you go to submit, you end up getting the wrong answer verdict.
Yeah, I think people tend to guess on game theory problems a lot without, maybe rigorously proving their solutions,
Mhm.
and that can work really well in Code Forces and other contests, and it can also not work that well. So
Yeah.
a little bit of luck involved there.
Yep, these problems do require some intuition, but a lot of times if you want to be sure your program is correct, you do have to like prove your solution, make sure it works.
Both strategies can be employable. I
Yep.
mean, from my perspective, especially if you're in a position like First Academy right now, if you don't know what's wrong with these other two and you have an idea that you think has a good chance of working for
Mhm.
Hero, and it's fairly easy to try, it might be worth you just trying that one right now to see if you can get that solved. Now with 2 wrongs,
Yeah, the thing that I would be worried about if I were the First Academy is that Freedom High School number 1 has less penalty points. So if they were to solve some problems, I'm not so sure like if they would be above them or below them based off penalty points.
certainly true. It definitely feels like it's in their best interest to try to get placing worked out just based
Yes,
on the scoreboard.
Based off the solves.
But
correct.
if they feel absolutely hard stuck on that, it is not necessarily a bad idea to try something for Hero if that feels right to them. It's just going to depend on what they feel like they can do.
So now with an hour and 23 left into the contest, we're coming up on the scoreboard freeze, which means that for the
Freeze is
last
coming.
the last hour, we won't be able to see what the verdict is for submissions, and we'll
That's
just see
correct.
that they have submitted on those problems.
That's correct.
Looking at the scoreboard, there doesn't seem to be any other updates.
Well, we can certainly take a chance to talk about anything we want to note with some of the problems that have been more solved in this contest as well. I think there's a few we've just kind of glossed over.
Yeah, I don't think
Oh,
we
worth
ever
mentioning.
talked in depth about invaders.
We did not talk about invaders.
Yeah,
Let's jump to that one.
let's go to that one.
What's being asked there?
Yeah, I guess I can maybe explain that.
Sure.
So I guess in the problem invaders, we're given a sequence of left and right moves and the starting position. We want to then determine if our cannon will end in the middle of the screen. So it seems like our cannon will move based off this sequence of left and right moves.
Sure.
We know where it starts, and then we have to then end up check if it's in the middle of the screen. And based off the input, the middle of the screen is x equals 0, and it seems like we're moving on a number line.
So the student is given a sequence of commands. They have an opportunity to move around based on those commands. And essentially my impression is they want to simulate that with this program. Nothing is abstracted here. It is an easier problem, and it's about simulating it correctly
Yeah.
is what it comes down to in this problem.
Yep. Yeah. I think-
One tricky thing to note with these type of problems is you'll notice the output requests you to print the string sequence challenge completed or better luck next time. I've only heard the horror stories of contestants who have typoed any of these words in their output, which has resulted in a wrong answer, and found that after the contest or at the very end when they could have had the problem solved much earlier. So I hope none of the teams are in that position today. But that's always something to check.
I think because of that, it's generally safer to just copy paste what the string is from the problem if they have the.
That's the best bet if you can do that. If you can't do that, double, triple check it.
Yep. Double, triple, quadruple,
quintuple. Yeah. Be sure you check.
We got it. That's the first. If I wrong answer, that's the first thing I check.
Well, the first thing I check is overflow, and then I go right to that because I know I'm susceptible to making those type of errors. So.
Well, So I compete on a team with Thomas Meeks, and he is very susceptible to those types of typos.
Is he? Okay.
And I think we actually had a set where that was an issue.
Wow, okay. Well, then you are a very strong participant for keeping that at the forefront of your mind.
Yep, I do have to keep him in check.
I do. That's good on you. I can absolutely appreciate that. Yep. And there's also a couple more problems I don't think we even touched. Flow, I don't think we touched.
Yeah, I don't think so, which has been solved by
building we did not
teams.
touch. We should definitely look at
let's look at some
flow
of these
and
problems.
building. Yeah. I don't think we had the chance to talk about those.
Which one do you want to talk about first?
Whichever one I can find in this book here. Let's see.
There is a glossary at the beginning.
Well, I know the order of the problems. It's getting to it.
All right, man.
Oh, wait, maybe I don't actually. Well, let's just talk about flow. I know the
like
problems
my
anyway.
co-host is struggling with flipping the pages.
The pressure of the contest, it gets to you. No, let's take a look at flow.
All right, let's look at flow.
Talk a little bit about that one.
All right, let's look at that.
All right.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow right here. Okay.
All right, do you want maybe to talk about that one?
Yeah, so given a plumbing network, determine the stability of each junction. Essentially what's going on in this problem is we're being given what really is a graph. It doesn't necessarily need to be understood that way.
So what's the stability of a junction? What is that defined as?
So the stability of a junction in graph theory is the, I believe, out degree of the vertex, out degree of the junction minus the in degree of the junction.
It says the number of pipes leaving.
It's the in degree of the junction minus the out degree of the junction.
Minus the number of pipes leaving the junction. I see.
Yep, that's the stability of a junction as it is defined in graph theory. Actually, that might just be specific to this problem.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Either
I don't know
way.
if I've seen that term before used.
Well, it's a little more niche. This is some stuff.
I think this might just be like the flavor text for this problem.
This might just be. That's okay. So we got two sample cases here. You'll notice the answer can be negative. So anyone trying to use unsigned integers for this problem could have a hard time. That is in the sample. That would catch them. They would catch that locally on these cases. I know I've had that issue before using unsigned and subtracting unsigned and underflowing values.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't say that I've used unsigned integers too much.
Unsigned is great because it actually prevents bugs if you're doing things right. It does, because then when you're working with warnings and you're looking at different sign compare warnings you can run into, like if you're subtracting something you shouldn't be, that's going to get caught in a warning by the compiler, or comparing something that you shouldn't be. So you can actually...
when you compile with like...
Yes, exactly, with warnings.
Yeah, it depends on how you compile, right?
You can do a -w signed, I think, in C++.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a -wall will catch some of that too, but it's a nice way to catch some of those errors if you use unsigned and stuff. So I've been trying to.
So
get
this
into
is for C++?
That's specific to C++. That's correct. Yep. Which I don't know that a lot of participants are using today. I'd actually be interested to see what that looks like on the submission side.
Yeah, it's interesting how most of our participants are using Java, yet most of the members of the UCF programming team end up using C++ or Python.
That's true.
I don't think we have a Java user. Maybe on the JV, I
Maybe
wouldn't know.
we do. I don't think so, though.
No one comes to my mind.
Yeah, I don't think anyone currently uses Java on the team. However, it used to be
The majority.
The
It
main
seems
language.
like times have changed.
Well, I think
And
too
with
many
the
people
new-
TLE'd in Java.
Yeah, I think people
and
were
they decided
sick
to
and tired of
switch.
the TLEs, which is the time limit exceeded verdict, because Java tends to be
It
slower
can
than
be
C++
a bit slower in certain
at
cases.
times. Yes.
Yep, in certain cases.
Oh, I'm going to use the restroom, Cam. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. I'm going to jump to that other problem that we didn't discuss, just to give a high level of it. So that one was building gazebos. This is allegedly one of the easier problems in the set, just based on the scoreboard. I mean, if you guys take a look at what's going on behind me here, you'll see building is I mean, we've got a solid green bar here so far. We're looking at the top 20-ish teams. Wow, even the top 30 teams have all solved it. Maybe more. So it's definitely one of the 4 easiest in the set. So just to talk about what this problem is looking at. In this problem, it's really a single number that you're given, which is the number of bricks that you have. These are 2x1 bricks. And you then want to output a single integer, which is the minimum number of additional bricks you need to buy, such that I believe you can make a square out of 2x1 bricks. That's essentially what I think is happening in this problem. We can't go into too much detail with the solution, but I can say the number of bricks that you might initially have is going to be on the order of 1 billion. And then you're going to be printing that minimum additional number of bricks you need to buy to construct a square foundation made out of 2x1 bricks. Yeah. So 2x1 is interesting. To me, that indicates that we're going to have some behavior with parity involved here. Evens, odds are going to be important. And then we also need to consider behavior of squares. Square numbers and stuff like that. So definitely an interesting problem to think about. Yeah. Are there any others that we haven't addressed at all? And we did get the chance to speak with the author of this one. That was Thomas Meeks earlier. And for flow, I hope we will get the chance to speak with the author here in a little bit.
Have there been any updates?
I was not looking at updates. I talked about building, though.
Building?
I went over building at a high level. High level.
Interesting.
Okay. Not seen.
Yeah, this is like the stage of the contest where everything slows down.
Yep. It's gonna be slow, and teams are gonna be working on those problems that are challenging them right now.
I actually did notice that placing did submit again on, or First Academy
Yep.
did submit on placing.
That's true.
So they are working on that. So
At least at this, they were.
they were, yes.
I'm also noticing even from these top teams, a lot of wrong submits on pseudonym and Fox.
That is correct.
That's interesting.
Yeah. They see-
Pseudonym being a heavier implementation problem, there's a lot of room for error.
Still only 2 teams have solved Fox.
Yes. Which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. And it's been the case like that for about 40 minutes.
It has. And placing is also pretty lowly solved with only 3 solves.
True. Yeah, it seems like placing, pseudonym, and Fox have like those are going to be those problems that only have like less than 5-ish leading into the last hour.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct. Interesting. Well, it'll be cool to follow and see what's going on. How much time do we have leading up to the last hour? We've got 10 minutes.
Yeah. Is there a full list of school rankings somewhere? We can only see some of them. Yeah.
Oh, we should post a link to the full scoreboard.
Yeah, I think
Looks
actually
like people are looking for that.
maybe I think it might be on the HSPT website.
It is. If you go to, we can post the link. And I've got
Yeah.
the full scoreboard.
We're definitely, yeah, we can post that. To the left, HSPT, that's online.
During contest scoreboard, posting the link. Just linked the scoreboard for you guys in the stream who want to check that out. It should, everything looks like it's up to date here. This is the live scoreboard. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we have 10 minutes into the last hour. I'm going to use this time to get a snack, get whatever. Feel free to stay on and host or
Alright.
or put it on pause. And
I think we
can
should
get a snack.
maybe take an intermission and then we can
Yeah,
get our
I think an intermission
last-
is great. And then
and
we can bring in our last author.
our
and-
last author in. Yeah.
Do that. Awesome. Well, we're going to jump into a quick intermission. Stay tuned for an interview with the last author of the problems in the last hour of contest.
Yep. Leading up to the last hour.
Awesome. And we are back.
We're back.
Into the last hour of contest, ready to talk about what happened with the scoreboard and then bring on our final problem author for a quick interview.
Yep, and just as a reminder, we are in the last hour, so this means that any submissions from now on are frozen. This means that
They're going to be hidden.
We don't know what the verdict is.
Yeah, we will not see the verdict. I'm looking for an example of that. We actually see West Boca Raton Community High School number 3, which you guys can see on the
so
stream.
on the scrolling leaderboard, we can see that it shows up as blue. This means that they have submitted on the problem in the last hour. However, the scoreboard is frozen, so we don't know yet the verdict.
Yep, that underlying question mark indicates that we don't know the verdict. However, the +1 is the number of submissions we've seen after that hour mark, so we can continue to track that and see what problems teams are submitting on.
Correct.
Also got another submission that came in the last hour from North Broward Preparatory School, number 1.
Yeah, and
on
I think
espionage.
I think I should bring in Marks or Tyler, who is one of
Absolutely.
our problem authors, who wrote
Yeah.
some of these problems.
Yeah, let's
Can you
talk
check
to him
what the
about the
stream is seeing?
problems. It's on the scoreboard. I'll switch
I
it
think
over.
you should switch it and when
Cool.
I bring
Yeah.
in Tyler.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right. Welcoming Tyler Marks, author of one of
Here's
the
Tyler
problems,
Marks.
member of the UCF programming team. Welcome on. Oh, he's got the elephant. Awesome. Pleasure to have you joining me,
I'm
man.
glad to be here.
Awesome. So you authored, as I understand it, was it 3 or 4 of the problems in this contest?
5 of the problems.
5 of the problems. Okay.
Holy.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of experience working with these problems. He did write 5 of them, and it's going to be interesting to hear the insights he has to offer about what the scoreboard looks like.
Yep.
So I guess I want to talk about a couple things with you. First off, did you compete at all in HSPT?
I did not. I actually got into programming pretty late into my high school career,
Okay.
so I wasn't able to have the chance to compete. I went to Timber Creek High School, and I.
Pretty renowned
Yeah.
school for
Yeah.
this.
Some of you may be familiar with Mr. Denker. He tried really hard to get me to do programming stuff, but it just had not clicked with me at that point in my life.
Sure. So you got into it more in college when you came to UCF
Yep.
and stuff.
Yep,
So,
one of our alumni I was close friends with, Daniel West.
okay.
And he was the one who talked me into trying out, and I'm really glad he did.
Absolutely. So what got you involved with the high school contest then?
I really enjoy programming contests in general, and I want to be able to introduce people to the contest earlier on. Like, I wish I would have been able to.
For
And
sure.
so I love being able to contribute to this and being able to get people into competitive programming earlier on in their life.
That makes sense. I feel like these problems address like a pretty wide audience.
Yeah.
So it's a great way just to get into
Yeah.
it, or if you're more experienced, to improve your
Yeah.
skills.
I think we did a really good job of this year of getting a good balance between math problems, which people might be more familiar with, and programming problems that might be a little bit more rigorous on the implementation side.
Yeah, I think that's been pretty well reflected in the standings, in my opinion, too. I want to jump into what problems you wrote and what your thoughts are, and walk through all of them.
Yeah.
So just, I mean, going in order, what's the first one that you wrote?
Elephant espionage.
Okay, it's espionage.
As you guys might be able to tell based off of me holding this giant stuffed elephant, I'm quite obsessed with elephants. I advocated for getting elephants on our shirts this year, and just overall love elephants. And also, the program, as several of the programming team members know, I also really love geometry problems. So this was like the fusion of 2 of my favorite things in life.
So what's involved in this problem, and what was your anticipated difficulty with this one?
So this problem was meant to be a little bit of an introduction to vector operations, which are used a lot in computational geometry.
Fair.
However, I also wanted to be very important that people who did not know vectors would not be blocked by solving this problem.
They could still approach it, since that's,
Yeah.
in my understanding, not typically taught in high school. Although
Yes.
I don't know, it depends on the courses.
In my pre-calc class, we vaguely covered them, but like in very, very small detail.
Pretty limited.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's some other approaches involving right triangles that can also be very powerful.
That might be a lot more approachable for contestants who have only seen a geometry class or work with like
Correct.
2D geometry type stuff.
Yep.
So this might be a great opportunity for them to get exposed to that vector knowledge. Okay.
Correct. One of our major goals this year, this was something I worked on a lot with Thomas, was making sure that the problems we had were not strict knowledge barriers. We wanted to
Of course.
allow teams to be able to approach problems that may not have algorithmic knowledge. And so we worked really hard on making sure the problems we wrote were not just knowledge, but also could be derived through rigorous like math.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been pretty well reflected in the scores as well, and that's been awesome to see.
Yeah.
So does the solves on espionage match your expectations?
Yes, this is pretty much
Okay.
what I was expecting. It's a geometry problem, so typically there's a little bit of an effect in competitive programming where geometry problems will often be avoided. And I think in this case, this might not be the case. I think quite a few teams are approaching this that might typically get scared by a geometry problem, but they seem to be approaching it with quite a bit of courage.
Definitely. I mean, we had the first solve at 25 minutes, Doral
Yeah.
Academy number 1,
Yeah.
and 2 minutes later another solve.
Yeah.
So I think teams probably feel like this problem is pretty approachable, a good
Yeah.
one to go after. Did you write flow?
I did write flow, yes.
I thought that was the case. So
Yeah.
what was your intent for that problem?
That problem is meant to be a very intro-level graph problem where it's meant to familiarize you with the idea of working with a graph, but just like espionage, it's not meant to be a knowledge barrier. If you don't know graphs, you can still approach the problem, but it's meant to be like, here's the idea of a graph, look into this more, and be able to learn more about different graph algorithms.
So you don't need an understanding of even necessarily what a graph is going into it
Correct.
to be able to
Yeah.
approach this problem.
My intent
Sure.
with this problem was to not necessarily be a graph problem, but to be an idea of when the teams are exploring these after, to be able to hear, oh wait, that was a graph problem, what's that? And then be able to look more into what graph
And learn
theory
more
and-
about what that is.
Exactly.
That makes sense. I mean, just looking at the scores, it seems like most teams were able to solve it on their first submission.
Yep.
So not too many tricky things going on in this problem,
Correct.
it doesn't seem,
Yep.
if you have the solution. Okay. What was the next one you wrote here?
Decay.
It was decay.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Decay's definitely one of my favorite problems this year.
It's
I'm-
one of the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's meant to be a very rigorous number theory problem. And I'm really happy to see one of the teams getting it very early on. Not too surprising, this team did really well last year, and they did some similar stuff with math problems last year. But I'm really happy to see them approaching it early on and getting it early on.
Do you think that was, I mean, in your opinion as a contestant, a good strategy for them to employ in this contest? Obviously, we'll see later on, but
I think it was risky. I personally, in a contest, I would approach other problems first. Because when you approach a problem that's really hard and that delays you, that adds penalty points for every other problem you solve after. However, my team's also not the greatest example of this last year. At regionals, we went after two pretty difficult problems very early on. But I do think it's a valid strategy, and knowing when to apply it can be a very effective tool.
definitely true. Definitely true. Okay, that's fair.
Cam,
Do
if you don't mind, let me ask a
Yeah.
question regarding decay.
Yeah,
I guess,
definitely.
what was your inspiration behind the problem? How did you come
Sure.
up with the problem?
So there's a certain technique, not going to necessarily spoil it right now, but
For
there was
sure.
a certain technique I've been really wanting to write about that problem utilizes. And I was exploring, I got inspiration from other problems, and was finally concocted that problem. And I can't take credit for it all. I was originally writing it to be a slightly easier version, but Thomas and I were talking about it, and he pointed out an interesting observation about the problem that allowed
An
me
altercation
to up the
almost?
bounds.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because I remember Natalie also does similar thing. She takes ideas from similar
Yeah.
problems and then she incorporates it into her
Yeah.
own problems. But Savic, on the other hand, was talking about how he thinks of a problem and then he
Yeah.
tries to adjust the bounds, adjust
Yeah.
something, add a constraint such that it
Yeah.
makes it then solvable. So it's just interesting to
Yeah.
see those two trains of thoughts of
Yeah.
like creating problems.
Yeah, I have a very variable process. Typically, I like to think
Okay.
about the problem. Then once I come up with a problem, whether it's inspired by others or just some other topic I've learned or something like that, I like coming up with the flavor text after that. Sometimes, and this was the case with elephant espionage, I'll come up with something I want to write about, and I'll use that to morph a problem out of it.
To formulate a problem
Yeah.
that you can solve once you
Yeah,
think of it.
exactly.
Sure.
Interesting, I see.
Yeah, so you almost go from both sides depending
Yeah.
on the scenario. Yeah,
Depending on how I'm feeling that day.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing different ways the different
Yeah.
authors have written their problems, to be honest.
Yeah.
So what do you expect from this problem in the last hour?
I would be happy to see a few more solves. I'm not expecting too many more solves.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be proven wrong about that, but I'm expecting it to continue appearing to be a hard problem on the scoreboard.
Do you think it gets another solve?
I think it gets at least one more solve.
Okay. That'll be
We actually
interesting
have a
to see.
submit on the
We
K.
do have
Yes, we
one
have another
submission
submit.
that we can note right now
Yes.
that came in from the First Academy, currently in first place.
It is
Uh,
unknown whether
It's
they solved
the
it.
verdict is unknown.
Yep.
Just to scroll. That looks to be the only submission we have on that
Yeah.
problem though right now in the last hour.
Yeah, it looks like at least from the scoreboard, we only have 2 teams working on it. I'm sure there might be more that are pondering it and trying to get their initial submissions in, but
Mhm.
definitely a very interesting problem.
And I guess overall, I mean, with this going into the last hour, other teams just that even might have a chance of solving it might be
Yeah.
going for other problems in this
Yeah.
set.
Correct.
And so that might reduce the number of
Yeah.
solves that we could have otherwise seen in some sense.
I am certain that there are teams that can get this problem that just are stuck working on other problems right now and are going to have to push through that wall to be able to see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So did you write any other problems in this set?
Uh,
Pseudonym, I think, right?
Yes, I wrote pseudonym and I also wrote invaders.
Okay, so
Yep.
pseudonym is interesting to me because we see a lot of top teams struggling with that problem.
Yes.
Why do
So-
you think that is?
It's a very implementation heavy problem.
Okay.
And that is why I intended it to be. We had a very math oriented contest last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to write a problem that would be a little bit more code oriented and a little bit more implementation heavy, and that's what pseudonym is.
So, do you think a lot of these teams that are struggling, their issue really strictly relies in the implementation, and they probably have a solution idea, and it's the execution there? Just
Yes.
total speculation.
Yeah, I think for the most part, there's going to be a significant number of teams that get this problem in the last hour that
Really?
are just working out some minor bug they have in their implementation.
Because a lot goes into it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you also wrote invaders then too.
Yes, correct.
That seems to be either the easiest or second easiest problem in
Yeah.
the set. I assume that was the intent.
Yes, it was. That problem I intended to be on the easier side.
Mhm.
I wanted it to differ a little bit from the other easier problems we had written, and just allow people to have a somewhat interesting problem that they can approach early on.
Is the idea behind this problem someone who has, very little programming contest
Yes.
experience can still come in and approach this?
Correct. I want someone
Okay.
who might be in their first programming class learning the very basics of their language to be able to look at this problem and maybe struggle a little bit with it,
Yep.
but be able to at least go through the process of working at a solution for it.
Absolutely. I mean, writing any program that works at all is extremely challenging at first
Yeah.
when you're just getting into
Correct.
programming.
Yeah.
So having problems like invaders and So True, in my opinion, is great for this
Yeah.
contest because people feel like they can
Yeah.
still come in and have a good time and approach problems.
Yeah, like I said earlier, my goal with this is I want to be able to introduce people to competitive programming, and
Mhm.
we can't do that if all the problems are going to be insanely challenging.
No.
Use advanced techniques that are just not approachable for someone first learning programming.
Definitely not. And for the more experienced contestants, we have problems like Hero and Decay,
Yeah,
and even Pseudonym and Fox,
yeah.
which can be a good challenge for them to
Yeah,
work on as
exactly.
well. So you have both sides of it.
Was
Yeah,
it-
I guess on the topic of introducing people to competitive programming, have you mentioned how you were introduced to competitive programming and how
Yeah,
you
so-
what your experience is?
Yeah, so I had started learning programming in my senior year of high school. I did a little bit with it beforehand, but more in a robotics orientation, where I wasn't really learning much about the programming language, but rather learning how to use built-in libraries
Mm-hmm.
that were basically I was given a bunch of abstracted code to work with, so I wasn't really
Sure.
Yeah.
learning the intricacies of programming at that point.
Mhm.
So I started delving a lot more into that in my senior year. But was still mainly just interested in learning the basics of programming, wasn't
Sure.
really getting into the problem solving side of things.
Mhm.
Over that summer, that was unfortunately the first summer we had that was heavily affected by COVID.
Mhm.
And so I started getting more into competitive programming, problem solving, and was convinced to try out for the team by one of the alumni members.
That was Daniel West you mentioned
Yep.
before.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he's fine being mentioned on this stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's an ex-UCF programming team member.
Yep.
Former member of the team.
Yep.
Yeah,
Going to
and former judge.
we'll be competing in World Finals this April.
That is true.
That's correct.
Yep.
And I mean, if you want to share as well,
Yeah.
your team for the regional contest.
Yeah, so I was on a team with two of the other judges that are helping out with this contest, Andy Fan and Sachin.
Savic Curu.
Savic
Yeah.
Kumar, yeah.
Sorry, Sachin, I always butcher your last name. And we've been training this entire year, been figuring out how to work on a team to approach really hard problems. We went to regionals and we did really well. We ended up getting first place in our region. And now we're training for the North America Championship and hoping to qualify for World Finals.
When is
That's
that?
phenomenal.
When is the North America Championship?
North America Championship will be in May of this year.
Hosted at UCF, by
Hosted
the way,
at
which we
UCF.
mentioned before too. But
Yep, I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well.
Yeah.
I'm hopefully going to be here for that.
Yeah.
So I'll get the chance to cheer you guys on.
Yep.
I'll be watching online and cheering you guys on.
Along with that, I guess I also want to ask, like, what your experience with the UCF team has been, if you'd recommend that to others, and what your experience as a student has been.
I would absolutely recommend it. The UCF programming team has been a really great community. I've met a lot of fantastic people, made a lot of great friends. It really encouraged me to learn more about the world of competitive programming, explore problem solving, which I've all really enjoyed, and like I said, just meet some really great people. UCF has also been great. I definitely kind of shot myself in the foot a little bit with my UCF career. I took on a lot more than I could chew, but I've been really enjoying the classes, been really enjoying getting to learn a lot about computer science and my other major, mechanical engineering. And like I said, I would recommend doing this to anyone that is even remotely interested in it.
Anyone interested?
Yep.
The other thing we mentioned too was the practices, in theory, should be available to high school teams that are
Yes.
interested, I think.
Yes, I do know that a few of the people competing in this contest right now have attended a few of our Saturday practices.
That's true. That's true.
And if you are interested, feel free to reach out and we can try working with you to make it work.
Yeah, so it seems like you mentioned that you're a mechanical engineering major, so I guess that means that, like, you don't need to be computer science major to be on the programming team. Is that?
That is correct.
I guess
One
that
of the
might
other people who is also helping judge, he actually was an aerospace major when he was doing his undergrad. And any major is welcome. We have math majors, computer engineering majors. In fact, I think one of the members was originally a biology major and is now studying, I want to say it was anthropology. So, like,
interesting.
as long as you're interested in programming, as long as you're interested in problem solving, you're more than welcome to join our team and do some problem solving.
Absolutely. I mean, just to say, programming doesn't just have to be for computer science students.
Yeah.
And this isn't software engineering per se. This is problem solving.
Yeah.
This is different, and if you're interested in that, there's no reason not to try it.
Any job requires problem solving.
Yeah. You're going to have to use critical thinking in your life, and this is a really great way of training critical thinking. And also, the programming side of things, more and more jobs are needing some form of programming. Might not be as advanced as what we're doing, but it's still good to have that training to be able to work with these programming languages.
Absolutely. With your experience, I have one last thing. Maybe he has something.
Yeah.
Do you have recommendations for the competitors who might go back and look at this, how they can train for this contest from a judge's perspective?
There are a lot of great resources online. A few people might already be familiar with the USACO contest. They also have a website called usaco.guide, and that has a lot of great resources for learning about different algorithms, different techniques, whatever. And also has a really good problem recommendations. Going on about that, there's also a website called CP Algorithms that also talks about some really good algorithms. A little bit more on the advanced side than USACO Guide, but it is also really good. And then there's CSCS, which has some really good problems for people beginning in competitive programming and wanting to develop those skills. Cam and I are working on a website right now for our senior design project that's oriented to train competitive programming. I'll probably wait to name drop that, but
Sure.
Because we're still heavily
Still in development, yeah.
But I would imagine that once it's at a point to be functional, we can make like a Code Forces blog or something saying, hey, here's this website. So Code Forces is another great tool that runs virtual contests, but they also have a blog option. So keep an eye out there for when we drop that.
Yeah. Awesome.
I
Do you
guess
have any-
I guess
do you-
I have something.
Yeah.
Would you recommend the same things for someone who's not just trying to practice for the HSPT, but also looking to try out for the UCF program?
True.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Those resources I provide or that I mentioned are good for all levels.
It
Like I
rolls
said,
over.
some of them will be a little bit more advanced than others, but I have used them for training for the collegiate contest. But I also know that there's a lot of good introductory material on those.
That makes sense.
All right.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
No, I think that's it for me.
It's been awesome having you on,
glad to
man.
have been on.
Yeah, thank
Love
you
to
for
have
coming
you
on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Sweet,
I'll
man.
put this
Taking your
out.
time.
Okay,
Over
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Definitely feel free to send up anyone who just wants
Yes.
to come on too.
Alright.
Like ask if anyone wants to.
Yep.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Sweet, man.
So I actually got a message from our Chief Judge Glenn that the contest will end at 4:01 p.m.
Is that a minute extension or
I think they started
did
at
they start at 12:01?
I think they started
They
at 12:01.
started at 12:01. Let's
So-
take a look at the standings. We
Yeah,
can jump
let's-
back to here. I'll share the screen
we can
so
see
everyone
what
can see
people
what
have
we're looking
submitted
at on
on.
the scores. Jumping to the scoreboard here.
Seems like First Academy submitted again on the K.
Yes, 2 submits now on Decay.
So at least
You
that
guys can
confirms
see
that
up
their
here as
first
well.
submit was probably not a correct verdict.
We can definitely assume that.
Yeah.
So they're still working on it. They may have solved it now. It's hard for us to know. It's
Yeah.
interesting that they're going after Decay over placing, which more teams seem to have
Yeah.
found approachable.
But they do have 3 WA or wrong answers on placing, which does
Yep.
suggest that they have thought of it and they have
Yeah,
attempted to at least make their
they
solution correct.
might just feel like that one is not in the cards for them today, and they'd like to get Decay. I would like to look at American Heritage, who has another submit on pseudonym. They're currently sitting in 3rd at the freeze. No idea when that submit came in. It's hard for us to know. Typically, if a good amount of time goes by, maybe it's a little more likely that was accepted. If you see them
Yes.
continuing to submit on it, that's not always a great sign. It's hard for
Yeah.
us to know. We got a team with 2 submits at 8 problems, though. That's Atlantic Community High School number 1, with 1 on placing, 2 on espionage after the freeze. That's interesting because if they solve both of those,
Yep.
they're
They
in a
move
pretty
up.
crazy position.
They move up to
this
10
contest.
problems.
Yes.
Which would bring them to first place.
Well, it's hard for us to specifically know that.
Assuming
Depending on the other
depending on the
submissions,
other teams.
it's hard for us to know.
Yep.
Specifically
wanna
because
mention-
First Academy could have had a
Yep.
solve.
I also want to mention that Trinity Preparatory School number 3 submitted on Hero during the freeze at 42.
Where is that?
They're number
Yep,
42.
I see that.
So
They have
they-
3 submits after the freeze.
Yep.
3 different problems.
They could be the first team to have solved Hero, and we do not know yet.
That is completely unknown to us. We'll have to wait and see.
Yep. Actually, I think there's a. I don't remember when, but I think the scoreboard ends up being resolved, and it will be posted to the high school programming tournament website
That's correct.
around 6 to 7 p.m.
Yep, there will be an unveiling ceremony. Everyone will have the opportunity to see the scoreboard, all the contestants. It'll be unveiled. And then it will be posted, the final results.
on the high school programming tournament website.
Let's take a look at some more submissions we've got. Horizon High School with 2 solves submitting on flow. Atlantic Community number 3 high school with 2 solves submitting on flow as well. As we just heard from the author, that problem is probably the next most approachable one, but it's going to depend on what the team feels like going for. So it's a reasonable decision to go after that one. Building a submit from Atlantic Community.
Seems like the scoreboard.
That's their first submit on that problem. He's going to fix the scoreboard for you guys so you can see it behind too, but we have this one up. Winter Park High School number 1, submitting on letter, first submission. That's what this first number is. It indicates they didn't submit on it all before. They have a submission after the freeze. Also a first submission from John First Leonard, some solves here. Haggerty High School with 5 submits on flow. maybe deciding to pivot to something else. Difficult to know. Couple submits on building from Calvary Chapel Academy. Couple submits from the First Academy on summer. These are teams with 3. I mean, getting that 4th problem will propel you a decent number of spots right here. A lot of teams going for it in this range. You have teams, you have Trinity Prep with the 3 submits. I mean, 1 on Hero even. No way for us to know what the verdict is there. Okay. Teams attempting pseudonym. Teams attempting summer. 5 submits after the freeze. With 6 prior. That's
Scoreboard is
from
back now. Back
Montverde
up.
Academy. Okay, awesome. We have the rolling scoreboard. It's tough to know what to expect here. I mean, I'm even specifically looking at all these teams with 7. We've got a number of teams with 7, and you know, teams who with multiple teams with 7 who are approaching 2 different problems.
Yep, leading up
If
into
they can manage to pull both of those off, that propels them to 9 solves right now.
Yeah, leading up
That
into
really changes the standings.
Yep, that would definitely change that. And
You
leading
know.
up to the freeze, we have 17 teams with 7+ problems. That seems to be really.
I really think, and don't count anyone out, but anyone who has 7 solves right now is very much still in this.
Agreed.
If you lock down 2 more solves, you're in a pretty good spot.
Yep, and if I remember correctly, top 5 actually get prizes.
It's top 3 or top 5. I don't remember which
I
one
think
it
it was
is.
top 5 where they're rewarded.
That's right. There are
trophies.
some awesome prizes.
Yep, some hardware prizes. If I remember correctly, there was an option of a drone.
Oh, there's a drone?
There's
Okay.
a drone as one of the prizes. Let me
That's
pull them
cool.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there was a drone. There was
Okay.
a drawing tablet. Which
Okay.
There was a Logitech mouse.
Okay.
There was like an Echo Show, which I'm not so
An
sure
Echo
what that
Show.
is, and an
Okay.
external HD. I'm not. Oh, an external hard drive.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up. Oh, an Amazon Echo Show. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that seems pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Those are some cool prizes.
Jump back to the video cam. Oh, this one's lagged on me. Okay, neat. Interesting. The scoreboard's interesting. I mean, it really is anybody's game. You know, solving 2 from 7 right now is a crazy position to be in. We may
Yep.
see that from Timber Creek. We may see that from West Boca Raton Community High School, Horizon High School.
Freedom High School just now has 2 submits in the last hour on Fox and Pseudonym. So if they got those problems,
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
But
that would bring
Atlantic
them-
Community also has 2 different submits between placing and espionage,
yep,
which contends them for a top spot.
this is going to be close to the end.
It definitely is. It's definitely going to come down to the wire, I would imagine. We've seen that these last couple years. For anyone who's been following the contest, these last few years there have been some dramatic scoreboard shifts in the last hour. It's been unbelievable.
Even the last minutes of the contest.
Yes, even the last few minutes of the contest leading up, people keep working through it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, generally for these programming contests, the last hour and the first hour are very important for your submissions.
Absolutely.
The last hour can make a huge difference between a team that's at the top of the leaderboard to where they might drop down a couple points because
Yep.
they stall.
Absolutely. We're joined by the chief judge, actually.
Yeah, Glenn Martin.
It's an honor. Yeah, Glenn Martin.
Hello.
Pleasure to have you on here.
Hi.
Welcome on.
Thank you.
Please take my seat.
No.
Yeah.
I'm
Are you
just
just
here
coming?
briefly.
No, let's have you on.
Glenn, how has it been judging?
What's going very smoothly. I'm here just for a few minutes
Yeah?
before the end of the contest goes nutty.
Yeah, I
We have
heard.
a lot to do at the end. Get ready for the final submissions and the award ceremony.
Yeah, I heard there's gonna be a resolver.
Yep, we have a resolver to replay the final hour at the
Mhm.
award ceremony. So
What time is the award ceremony?
uh, basically, as soon as we can finish everything up and get over there. So contest will end at 4:01. The teams will move over to the dinner and awards room, and the judges will finish their work and move over there. So
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, your perspective, Glenn, what the most exciting part of this contest is to
Mhm.
it's changed over time. To be honest with you.
you. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's nice when it's over, but it's all about
Fair.
being smooth and
Yep.
let's have a nice running contest. It's, and so when it's gone smoothly, today's been really good. Credit to all the judges and
Mhm.
everybody, all the helpers. So it's just nice, like made it through and then another one.
Yeah.
True.
So,
I guess other than you, the fact that we know that you're chief judge, I don't think you ever introduce yourself. So I guess what's your role on the UCF programming team?
well, I'm just one of the coaches. To be honest, I lose track of how many coaches we have. It varies year to year. So
Yeah.
I think we have usually about 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm one of them. I have for many years also operated as chief judge for today's contest, just to organize the judges and keep things marching forward. They do most of the work, and today's set has been awesome, and everybody's moving forward very, very smoothly. It's been a great day.
How long have you been doing HSPT for?
Depends what you go based off of.
I heard that you were actually a participant, if I remember correctly.
Right.
You were
Is
a
that right?
So
Yeah.
No way.
In one of the earlier years of
I did not even
HSPT,
know that.
yeah.
yeah.
This is the Glenn lore, yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
me and another coach, who I guess I won't name because he probably doesn't want me to, happen
I
to
know.
have competed in high school in the first and second annual UCF High School Programming Tournament.
That's
We didn't
insane.
know each other at the time.
I mean,
Happened
that
to be
makes sense.
competing against each other. Met at UCF later on.
Who won?
Yeah.
Who won out of you two?
I honestly don't. Well, I don't. To be honest with you, I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe it's sad, but I don't even. I attended the first one as a junior in high school. I don't remember how we did as far as placement.
Mm,
I know the second year, my senior year, we placed 5th, but I don't know how
that's really good.
the other coaches' team did. To be honest with you.
Sure. Fair.
So
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious what your hope is for what the contestants walk away with after today, after participating in this contest.
well, I think primarily we hope it's a fun day. Right, and,
Yeah.
and so that's number one. We
Mhm.
always want to have fun. We try to make it sure that the day is fun in various ways, but including the problem set.
Mhm.
So it's, we try to, like you see on the score, it's a much more fun day to solve 8 than solve 2, right?
Yep.
So,
Always,
yeah,
yeah.
as you guys know.
Mhm.
So it's we want a challenging set, but also not overly challenging, and have a fun day, have an educational day,
Mhm.
and probably after that learn a little bit about UCF, and
Mm-hmm.
and just reach out and say, make people have a fun time and be aware of what's
Yep.
here.
What's the most difficult part about preparing for this contest in your role? Or multiple things, I guess.
I mean,
probably.
there's no one thing. It's just
It's
more
all
the
of it.
multitude
Yeah.
of details.
Yeah.
Because there's the problem set, there's all the data that goes into making the problem set and editing, which you've heard from all the judges already. But there's a lot of contest system stuff, so the submission system you're seeing, there are environments that the teams are using today that all have to get prepared. There's prizes we give out in addition to just recognizing the top 5 teams. There's
Yeah, we
other
were
little
just talking
prizes.
about those. Yeah.
We just mentioned
And
the
so-
prizes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of little details, and as you do this year to year, you get better, but also you potentially start forgetting something.
Ah.
So like the last few days, it's like, what am I forgetting? What am I forgetting?
Sure.
Yeah.
But no, it's turned out I don't think I forgot anything, thankfully.
That's pretty good.
From our
So-
perspective, I mean, we don't have all the insight. It seems to have run incredibly smoothly.
Yep.
This year has been one of the smoothest ones, to be honest with you. I mean, to lead
Okay.
for the whole time. Even the judging staff's been awesome this year. The set has been really top notch, and it's. I knew going into it was going to be a pretty smooth day. So it's credit to everybody that participates.
It's
So,
always great when it's a smooth day.
yeah, and then there's a lot you guys know, but there's a lot that goes into it to make sure that today itself is as smooth and as perfect as possible. And it's not to claim that everything goes all smooth and leading up to it, but the people that are involved volunteer their time and deal with the glitches that happen beforehand and try to make today as perfect day as we can.
Mhm.
So, you know, as is one example, we were having a problem with printing yesterday as we're doing some setup that caused us a couple hours to work through. But we got it all settled and ready for today.
Just to clarify, that's with printing solutions, contestants printing their solutions out in contest, right?
Well, so them printing their solutions, but the judge responses, they get it on the system, but they also get a printout.
Oh,
Just-
I don't think we even mentioned what that is,
Yeah.
to be honest,
Yeah.
for people on here.
I don't think we mentioned the fact that they could print their own
No,
solutions.
yeah.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
people who don't
Why
know the
would
format.
they want to print their own solutions?
Well, sometimes if they're having an issue and it's not, you know, they're either, they themselves know it's not working correctly or they've submitted to the judges and did not get a correct response and need to look at it, they're able to print it and look at it away from the computer. I don't know if, I can't recall if you've covered it today, but they are participating in up to teams of 3, but use a single computer, so that has to be shared. And so sometimes it's useful to let one of your teammates use that computer while you're looking at your printout on the side, just to work with efficiency there. So they can print their code when they need to, and of course all the judge responses they get from their submissions go there to those printing stations, and then you know they can also ask clarifications on problems that they think something is vague. But we try to make sure the problems are as clear as possible. So
Yeah,
hopefully that doesn't come
yeah,
up.
of course.
But-
I know we just brought this up a minute ago, but we were actually just talking about opportunity for any students who are going back and looking at this to potentially practice, like with the UCF programming team members, which I know even a few contest participants have done.
Yep.
From a coaching perspective, are you able to give any insight on whether or not that's like open to anybody who's interested, or?
I mean, in general, we do allow and welcome students to come to our practices on Saturdays that we have. Of course, it is a time commitment. We're generally here at 10:30 to 6 o'clock-ish, roughly, every Saturday, as you guys know.
Yep.
Of course, it's a little easier for local people
Yeah.
to do that. You know, driving
Yeah.
up from Miami every Saturday is a little difficult. But there's been an
True.
occasional person that will maybe not come here and fully participate, but we might, you know, set up their login account and they might do it from home still. But,
True.
you know, there's even people that even live locally but live across town and don't necessarily want to spend 40 minutes driving across town that I know have done that.
Sure.
So, you know, they tend to, you know, I focus more on our JV problem sets that we run. So every Saturday, of course, we're running 2 problem sets for the 2 squads. So usually those people have vector towards junior varsity, but it really depends on their level and where they're at.
So if a participant wants to do that, is there anything just off the top that they could do to do that, or maybe we can get them some information?
I mean, the best thing is to reach out to the team and primarily Dr. Ali Ruji, who I don't think you're going to get a chance to interview today, but so I don't know the best way to get his contact out. But certainly the various people, the students, and certainly the teacher advisors from high schools participating today have gotten emails from him and certainly know how to contact him. So he can, certainly advisors can get you connected today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if needed, I could put his email in the chat if that's something that.
Well, I don't know if we want to.
Yeah, that's, I hate to commit.
We don't
for
want him to
so
get
that depends
spammed.
on him.
Yeah.
We could ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can ask
But
him.
certainly advisors know how to contact him.
Yeah.
Because he's been sending out emails for today's event.
So I guess if you're a student and you're interested, reach out to your advisor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I have one more question. What is your vision for HSPT moving forward for future years? Like, do you see it growing to more teams? Do you see it ever changing, or what do you have in mind?
Well, there's really a lot of different aspects to answer that question. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a hard
pretty
question.
open-ended.
Yeah.
there's a lot of things we talk about behind the scenes that are, I don't know, I won't say dreams, but just plans or, or less long-term, I don't know, how do I phrase it, but, contingency plans, I guess. So, if we have had conversations, like if labs get, rooms get repurposed, I don't know how realistic it is, but we've talked about using the arena or the venue. You guys know the old arena called the venue on campus, and having to set up a contest environment, which is a little bit more of process, but could it also make it a little more fun having everybody all in one location rather than splitting the 5 labs they're in today. But number of teams, we've actually been a little larger than this before COVID. Today we have 81 teams registered. I guess 78 have shown up. 3 did not arrive today for whatever reason. Which is a pretty good size. It's certainly up pretty much what we've seen post-COVID kind of levels, but we've done 110 teams in the past. So yeah, a lot of it depends on timing, and there are some schools that have more flexibility this time of year than others, and so it really kind of depends on dates a lot for some people.
So there's been less participation since COVID then, actually.
A little, I mean, because certainly, honestly, during COVID, everybody was at home. We actually held this contest, on an online fashion that year in 2021. It's a funny story because in 2020 we had this contest and it was literally one of the last events before everybody went home.
Wow!
Like 3 days after the 2020 version of this contest, everybody was sent home. So we just got it in that year, and then 2021 we held it online, and then 2022 we were back, but it was much smaller, and a lot of school districts were not quite allowed yet to travel and get out, and so it's kind of been returning and growing. So. And probably continue to boost up a little bit.
Then post-COVID, we still have an online version of this contest, right? Could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, this is something we started, 14 years ago now, I believe. We just had, you've heard about some of the process on how we create the problem set for today, and we just have so many good problems come. Like, we have 12 problems in today's set, but we usually have 50 or more ideas that show up. And so, number of years, 14, 15 years ago, we decided, well, let's reuse some of these extra ones we're not using, and let's have a second contest. We'll make it online though, and we'll make it, because it's online, we'll make it individual. So we originally held that over the summer the very first time, and then we ended up moving it twice, I believe, but now it sits in December, and we basically use it to sort of kick off Computer Science Education Week. So there's a week on the calendar, it's usually the second week in December, that is identified as Computer Science Education Week. And so that Saturday beforehand, we host this contest kind of as a kickoff. So it's all available to all high school students participate, and they just do it from home. So it's very convenient. And
you guys should sign up.
Yeah, you can. The nice thing is it's a little more national. We have had some teams from other states come to our on-site contest on days like today. But obviously it's very hard, but our online individual contests can be anywhere. So, yeah, definitely encouraged.
Yeah.
But, all right, I probably got to skip downstairs if that's all right. Get through these final preparations. But before I step out, I want to thank you guys for hosting this event today. So we recognize teams that get first to solve problems by giving them a jar of jelly beans. Usually colored to the problem that they got, but I brought you a couple extra ones for each of you. So thank you for all your efforts today.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything that you guys have been doing today.
Thank you.
All right, on behalf of the contest and Dr. Ruggie, everybody. So
Appreciate
nice job.
that. Awesome.
And then I'll turn it over to you guys. Have fun in this final, 13, 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Going into the last few minutes here,
I
I
gotta
can
go
see what's
Get
being
everything.
submitted.
I gotta get the resolver all set up for the words.
Oh, sure.
True.
Yeah.
All right. Good
Awesome.
job, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, take care.
So we're jumping into the last 13 minutes of contest right now, actually.
Yep. It looks like the First Academy has now 5 submits.
5 submissions on DK.
So they're working
in the
really
first
hard.
place seed.
Yep.
That means they likely did not get accepted early on there. They're still trying to get it. Maybe they got it on the 5th, but typically as you start to see more of this cannot be the case. Take it with a grain of salt. It becomes less likely because they're just having a hard time and it's getting down to the wire. But we never know.
Yep, they could have gotten it in their 5th submit.
They could have just solved it.
Yep.
We don't know, but it
tell.
does feel a bit less likely when that's the case, as opposed to just the +1 and then no more submits. But we'll see what happens. The next team down in the 2nd seed, Freedom High School, still sitting with the one they went for on Fox. I honestly feel pretty good about that submission because they didn't even go back to it.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember if that submission was before their submissions on pseudonym. If their pseudonym submissions were after Fox, I would say it's probably likely that they solved Fox.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably likely that they solved at least one of these because then they moved to the other. It's unlikely they're going for 2 in the last hour, but they might be.
True.
It's hard for us to know.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it is. That's all speculation. That's all speculation.
Anything we talk about
yeah,
right now
it is. We're
just
just speculating, but that does seem to be the case.
Yeah, we're just yapping.
Well, then we have American Heritage, Broward Campus number 3. They had 1 submit on pseudonym. +1 in the last hour is, if you didn't have any submissions before, it's almost the best sign because it really feels like you did get it.
Yeah, because I feel like
otherwise you usually keep trying to get that one. It's hard to move in the last hour.
Generally, for any programming contest, if you've had a lot of wrong submissions on a problem, I feel like it tends up with more wrong submissions, it's less likely that you'll eventually solve the problem.
Yep, definitely.
That's from my experience. I feel
mine as well.
When I've had problems where I've had to submit multiple times, I generally end up not finding the thing because I'm probably trying something that's not intended. Not intended, or like I just have the wrong idea or something along those lines.
Yep, that's absolutely true. We just saw, I think, another one come in from American Heritage on Fox.
American Heritage, Broward Campus. Yep.
It looks like they just submitted on Fox. They're also contending for a top spot right now. Pseudonym and Fox seem to be the one people are going for. Only 2 additional submits on Hero by the looks of it.
Oh, yeah. We have 2
That's
teams
interesting.
submitting on Hero in the last hour.
Yes. I don't think Hero is... I don't think it's getting solved.
Yeah.
But I could definitely be wrong.
There's
there
a
are
big
submits.
chance that Hero goes unsolved.
Yeah. Yep.
Because as we mentioned before, it was intended to be one of the harder problems.
It was. Absolutely. That may be the only solve we see on Decay as well. I honestly think there are probably other teams who could have solved Decay if they were just given that problem in this contest or something.
Maybe,
But with the other problems, they just made the call to go for other ones. You know.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. In the last hour, you do have to make some tough calls.
You have to narrow it down. Yeah.
You have to make some tough calls of dropping some problems.
Yep.
To ensure that you get some other problems.
That's part of the time constraint here.
Yep.
There's a lot of speed involved in programming contests.
Exactly.
Atlantic Community still sitting with the submits they had on placing and espionage. I don't remember if they had 3 on espionage.
I don't remember either.
It might have been less. I mean, at some point they certainly had less. They didn't submit 3 at once, but so that's not the greatest sign, but they might have gotten it.
Yeah.
3 submits from some teams with 7, like Horizon, contending for 3 problems right now.
And 2 of those are +1s.
Unbelievable, yeah. That would be unbelievable. I mean, it's highly likely that they solved at least one of those. You know, they're generally not going to be dispersed across 3 and continue submitting on those.
That is very true.
Yeah. They probably got one of those. West Boca Raton, contending for 2. Doral contending for 2 different solves. Let me check the stream. Jump back to the other view. Oh, it's here.
Yeah, maybe show the scoreboard.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is the frozen scoreboard.
Yep, you guys can see the frozen. We have North Broward Prep number 2 attempting pseudonym. A lot of teams are going for everything,
Yeah.
but a lot of teams are still trying to get pseudonym across the finish line. Teams that were attempting it before and are continuing to work on that problem in the last hour. Is that the right call in your opinion?
I think it's because we're seeing a lot of submits on pseudonym because it is an implementation problem. So
Yep.
teams might have already been like implementing this problem before the final hour, but
Yep.
now they're getting their submissions in and they're finally able to get their code to compile
Yep.
and run, and then now they're submitting. I think that might be the case here.
The author mentioned when we spoke to Tyler, he expected actually a lot of solves on this problem in the last hour.
That's generally how implementation problems tend to go.
Mm-hmm. It would not surprise me at all. We're seeing a good amount of submits on every problem, but the teams that are standing in the top 20 spots right now are going for pseudonym, Fox, and placing primarily, which are probably the next 3 most gettable for all of these teams. So it's a pretty
I agree.
reasonable strategy.
Based off solves,
Mhm.
even.
Based on the scoreboard, it's a pretty reasonable strategy.
And there's also some teams who are going for espionage as well, because it is a geometry problems, and I know there's some teams that might struggle with geometry, because I know I definitely struggle with geometry.
Yep.
So that's
Yeah.
something I would do.
I want to draw attention to a team. This is Pinecrest High School number 2. They currently have 5 solved going into the last hour. They have attempted 4 additional problems. If they manage to solve all 4 of these,
That would be
they would be
insane.
contending for first place potentially, depending on solves here. That might put them a bit lower, but
Yeah, depending on the
4
penalty points.
solves. That would be unbelievable coming from 5 going into the last hour. But one of their attempts is on decay. Now, we did see the American Heritage team with the
Broward
solve on
campus, yep.
decay
You mean
before
Atlantic?
some of the others. No, yeah, my mistake. That was Atlantic.
Yeah, Atlantic Community.
Atlantic Community with the solve. Maybe they got it. They had a +1.
And also, one thing that we did not mention is that as a contestant, you get balloons if you solve problems.
That's correct.
And in the final hour, you don't get balloons for the problems that you solve. So other teams with the balloons, they can't tell what problems you have solved as well.
Right.
So that's also a secret.
The scoreboard is equally hidden to them, so they
Yep.
do not know solves of other contestants other than themselves
Yep.
right now in the contest.
A contestant can see the verdicts of the submissions.
Only
they
their
get.
own
Yep.
team's submissions. Yep. So they can only see their own. And the
First
standings
Academy
won't move relative for them on the
submitted
scoreboard.
on placing for
Where
the
is that
first time
one?
in the final hour.
Where's that
The
one?
number 1 team.
First Academy. Oh yeah,
They submitted on placing
just now.
just now. Yeah.
Interesting. We have no way of knowing that verdict.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were to solve 11, they are in a really good chance for winning.
Yep.
If they solve 10, I wouldn't be so sure yet. There's a lot of teams with a chance of getting 10 right now. You know, especially this
Agreed.
American Heritage, Freedom, these
Timber Creek High School.
Atlantic Community as
Atlantic
well.
Community
I
has been
mean,
strong, yeah.
There's teams with good chances of getting 10, so, you know, even if they only get one of these, it's still anybody's game.
I completely agree. But unfortunately, it is looking like we are not going to get a set solve. I don't see any teams that...
I think it's extremely unlikely.
It is, yeah. Especially with 3 minutes left into the contest.
3 minutes left. I personally don't think anyone solved Hero. And I don't see anyone getting it in these last 3 minutes.
We do have one submit on Hero by Trinity Preparatory School.
I think we have 2 by Timber Creek as well.
I think I missed that one. Yeah, Timber Creek High School, number 2. With
There's 2 submits.
Yep.
And they may have gotten it, but my guess is that they didn't. We'll find out. I don't think this one will get solved because it is so challenging.
Yeah.
And because teams didn't have time to work on it.
Yeah, they didn't have that much time to think about the problem.
No, they didn't, and that's what you need for this problem. See, 3 submits from Steinbrenner High School, number 3. 4 submits from the Pinecrest, as I mentioned. We have 4 submits from Trinidad Prep. They're in an interesting spot. I mean, 4 submits from 6 there. That's a crazy position to be in.
Which team?
The 26th seed, Trinity Prep High School.
Oh, yeah. 4 submissions from 6 problems solved.
Yeah. I mean...
It's cool to see that a majority of teams have submitted in the last hour and that they haven't dropped off. And
they're continuing to work.
They're continuing to work and program and submit solutions. So it's great to see that they haven't stopped.
Yep. There's actually a team who solved. It looks like there's a time, if you look at the 78th seed, that 115 and the 216, I believe they solved.
They submitted after
both problems and then submitted again in the last hour. So they introduced some ambiguity maybe for parents or coaches or whatever who didn't look at the score earlier and now only see that question mark.
Yeah, that's interesting. One might wonder what strategy they're employing.
It's tough to speculate what their strategy there might be.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think I want to reflect on that. I think what they're looking for here is an obfuscation of the truth, the solves, an obfuscation of the solves. Because if they can take that knowledge from other contestants about what they solved, other people might have a harder time about knowing what to go for.
I see.
Now, that doesn't apply as much to problems that are as solved as So True and Invaders, but to the lesser solved problems, it definitely does.
I think I actually have, from experience, submitted on a problem in the last hour just to make teams think that, this problem should be worked on.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So it is not
and
unreasonable.
they've also submitted on DK.
Yeah. It is not unreasonable. Do you think they solved DK?
Plead the fifth. Timber Creek High School number 1 has also submitted DK.
Over.
And the contest is over.
This is the final scoreboard until the resolver.
This is the final. These are the submissions.
Yep. It seems like a lot of teams just sent. Seems like a bunch of submissions in the last couple minutes.
I mean, that's perfectly
That's
normal.
usually
That's
how it
understandable.
goes. Yeah.
They want to get that last solve. That's respect.
They're giving it their all.
That's respect. Give it. It was a great contest. I had a pleasure, honestly, just getting the chance to look at this contest with you.
It was great having you as my co-host.
It has been so humbling having the chance to work with you and teach you everything about hosting and stuff like that. So I'm glad I got the opportunity.
I'm glad I got the
ropes.
opportunity to teach you how it is to like.
I'm glad I got to show you the ropes a little bit with hosting and everything.
Yeah. It was great to have you as like my apprentice.
It's been phenomenal apprenticing under you and then also turning that around a little bit and getting to teach you a good bit on this side too. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah. It's been great.
It's been absolutely humbling, man.
Yeah.
A pleasure.
Pleasure.
I hope you can work for me in the future.
Yeah. Might be interesting.
Might be. All right.
I guess that's going to be the end of the high school programming tournament, the 38th annual. So I guess, unfortunately, I don't think we can stream the Resolver. So that's going to be
cannot.
posted on the high school programming tournament website. So you'll be able to see the final score there. And that's it.
Yeah,
That
we're,
was
we're unable to interview any participants.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Sadly.
that is the case. Yeah.
So we have to end it pretty much in its current state. Let me check if there's any final questions. Will you stream the Resolve? We can't.
We can't, unfortunately.
We cannot stream the Resolve, and we cannot interview participants. So we have to end our portion of the journey with you guys
Yep.
here. Scoreboard link is what we posted before. I'll post it one more time so that everyone has access.
And thanks for coming onto the stream.
Absolutely.
This was, I'm not exactly sure if this was the first time we do an HSPT stream. We
It
might have
won't be
done
the last, for
It definitely
sure.
won't
Yeah,
be the
it
last.
will not be the last. Awesome. Just posted that link to the scoreboard once again for anyone interested.
Yeah. We should have the final scoreboard there.
Yes.
Around
The final
6.
one will post after the Resolve,
Yep.
which will be a cool
And
experience.
after the award ceremony, which generally is around 6
Yep.
to 7-ish.
It will likely be. We got to get to the Resolve.
All right.
Let's see what happened with these submissions.
Yep.
Hang tight, guys.
All right. Take care, guys.